Moment of silence by Ms. Cushman.
As we gather together to conduct the business of the board, on behalf of the staff and students of the Enfield Public Schools, as well as the residents of Enfield, I invite you to join me for a moment of quiet reflection or silent prayer. And for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Our fire evacuation. In an unlikely event of an emergency, please exit through the back doors or through these side doors and down the steps. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Cushman.
Here.
Mr. Anderson.
Here.
Ms. Broculio.
Present.
Mrs. Gerard.
Here.
Mr. Gauss.
Here.
Mrs. Kiner.
Here.
Mr. Kober. Here. Mrs. McGuire-Bruce.
Here.
Board Chair Pickett.
Here. Thank you. No board guests tonight. We have a busy agenda, and I'll turn it over to you, Steve.
So we're going to start off with the student representatives report. Olivia, you going first?
Good evening, everyone. So Enfield High will be hosting a community conversation called What If on February 17th from 8 a.m. to 11 a.m. in the Enfield High School cafeteria. And this is just to explore the future of education and speak about skills that students currently need in the modern workforce and basically how Enfield High is preparing students for that. Parents and students, feel free you have to sign up for this conversation if you would like to participate, but everyone is welcome. There is a field trip coming up for students to travel to Lincoln Tech on February 4th to explore opportunities they offer for after high school. Students sign up in the guidance office if you are interested. Seniors, lots of scholarships are being released through the guidance office. Be sure to check Naviance and your email daily to see which one are being released. Students, in the AP Psychology class, created lesson plans and gave presentations to freshman classes to offer study tips and explain how the brain learns so they can better study for their midterms. So we just thought this was something really cool we wanted to highlight. I would say this was very helpful for the students that were presented to. I was part of this AP Psychology group, so a lot of the kids seemed very interested. And finally, from me, the Save a Life Tour will be coming to Enfield High on February 12th. So this comes every year. Juniors are invited to come and learn about the safe driving and listen to guest speakers. There are also distracted driving simulators, and the speaker and presentation part is open for only juniors, but the simulators are open to all students during all 4 lunch waves. So be sure to attend this assembly.
Good evening, everyone. The program of studies night is coming up on Thursday, February 5th at 6:30. The evening will begin in the auditorium with an overview of the scheduling, graduation requirements, and the many programs and courses EHS has to offer. Following the presentation, families will have the opportunity to tour the building, meet teachers, club advisors, coaches, and curriculum directors for each subject. Additionally, teachers should be currently meeting with students to discuss course selections for next year, and course registration opens up on February 10th for current students to enroll. We have 2 assemblies coming up. The Blues and Beyond will be coming to celebrate Black History Month with their performance, and the Innovation and Achievement Assembly will be honoring Enfield High's Apple Distinguished School Honor and our Buzz Robotics team. Lastly, from me, the Junior Prom is going to be held on April 2nd at Twin Hills Country Club in Longmeadow. The theme is Night on the Bayou, so definitely something to look forward to. And that's all from me. Thank you.
Steve, I'm just going to interject for one moment. I want to thank you both. Olivia, I believe a congratulations is in order. I heard that you were selected as a scholar athlete from the Connecticut Girls Soccer Association and awarded a scholarship. Congrats to you. I'm also going to remind you both that we have some really important new business, and I hope you join in our conversation.
Yeah, I'm going to hold all of my remarks until the new business section.
Perfect. Thank you. All right, we're already on to number 8, public comment. Good evening, and thank you for joining us tonight. A couple reminders before we begin public comment. Each speaker will have 4 minutes. Share your name and relationship to the district. This time's for your comments. It's not a conversation or a Q&A with the board. Our role is governance of the district, so please frame your remarks accordingly. Please remember that all comments become part of public record. In keeping with board policy and state law, we ask that you avoid sharing information that's confidential, including personally identifiable student information or specific personnel matters which cannot be addressed in a public forum. We appreciate you being here and thank you for your comments. And we're going to start with Miss Ruby Stern.
Good evening, everyone.
Just make sure your mic is turned on.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Ruby Stern, and I am a current resident of Enfield, Connecticut, and I just wanted to share some thoughts that I have regarding the public-facing school calendar. I'm currently a resident of Enfield and an educator, and I wanted to share a broader concern about the inclusivity in our town spaces. Our community is diverse in culture, faith, and lived experience, and I believe that it is important that the materials we share and the language we use reflect all members of our community, not just the majority. As a teacher, I have worked with students from wide ranges of religious backgrounds and cultures, and I know how important it is for students to see themselves reflected in both their curriculum and their broader community. As a Jewish member of this community, I want to gently note that not everyone celebrates Christmas, and acknowledgments that assume a shared holiday tradition can unintentionally exclude families or individuals who are still very much a part of this community and want to be included as well. I offer this in the spirit of inclusion and awareness, and I hope that the board will continue to consider how our calendars, communications to all residents, and public-facing materials can better reflect the full diversity of the people that we serve. Thank you.
Thank you. Maureen.
Maureen Griffin, Abbey Road. Okay, same kind of subject for my first one. Are we missing the second page of the calendar on the agenda? Because I was looking at it, and I remember you speaking last year about having on the back more information about various holidays, various days of cultural importance for people to learn about each other. It's a way to celebrate the diversity of our student body. It can be done in a way that doesn't confuse or clutter the calendar. The front can be everything. Anything that's regarding the school can be highlighted and have like green. These are days that impact the school. Have another color be cultural, any type of days. Flip it over, short brief, this is what it is, what culture it is, and then have a link to the district website where you have a real page about the calendar, not just some picture of the calendar, but a real page with the same information, but on each date, have a hyperlink that brings you to a description of what that is. Because if we're going to say we're celebrating and welcoming all cultures, all people, we've got to actually do it, not just say it. Okay, enough of that one. Next thing, the bathroom discussion last week. I'm disturbed on a couple levels by it. I'm not disturbed by a student having discomfort. Everybody has discomfort with things that is unfamiliar with them, and we shouldn't mock or degrade them at all for that. What I am disturbed about is that it was brought forward here when we're talking about students and other students that could easily be identified, or you don't presume anything about someone else. It was a very opportune time for a learning experience for this young person who had the discomfort. It could have easily been said, I'll look into that. But what you should do is speak to the guidance counselor, speak to your dean, go to them and say, I'm uncomfortable with this. How can you help me? What can I do? Is there something available? It's an opportunity for a child to learn, to dig into their discomfort or whatever their needs are, be able to verbalize it, be able to ask for what they need and advocate for themselves. You took that away from that child by bringing that here. Think about what we're trying to do. We are trying to raise young adults. We're not trying to teach children to just go running to mommy or whomever and let them handle. It's something I've had to learn over the past several years, because I can be a mama bear, but I've had to learn to dial that back as my children have gotten older and say, what's your problem? Who can you talk to? You go talk. If you can't get any forward movement or any understanding, then I got your back. But you make that child step forward first. That's what we're here for. We're here to raise young adults. On to that. I like what you're doing with the extra funds. It's needed items. It's not building up a cliff. Good work. Thanks. Bye.
Thank you, Maureen. There's no other public here, so we will move on to board member comments. Look for some volunteers. Ooh, Rosalie, you were quick tonight.
As an educator, I'm constantly reminded that students learn not only from what I say, but from what I model with integrity, especially when navigating conflict, accountability, and decision-making. Our very first priority is not actually teaching at all. It is the safety and security, both physically and emotionally, of our students. That responsibility does not stop at the classroom door. It extends all the way to this here dais, a dais that we were elected to in order to serve from with humility, not rule from with assertion. It can be difficult to show restraint when responsible for the safety of so many and when wanting to protect them from discomfort or harm. And so I have made a few notes of a few governance-related points to raise based on comments from our last meeting. Specifically, as parliamentarian, I want to clarify an important expectation embedded in our code of ethics regarding how student-related concerns are handled. Our policies intentionally establish a protocol for raising student issues so that students are protected, facts are verified, and confidentiality is preserved. If you have ever had to become a forensic detective to make sense of the recess drama, I know that you know exactly what I am talking about. But in all seriousness, that structure exists because student safety, both physical and emotional, must always come before any public discussion or adult debate. When student concerns are referenced in public settings without having been formally brought forward through the appropriate channels, it creates a narrative that is not grounded in our documented processes and is therefore incredibly liable to misinformation. Even unintended, that practice risks misinforming the public, breaking trust, and thrusting students into an often uncomfortable spotlight. As educators, we also know the power of adult words. We teach students to show precision and be truthful and responsible in how they communicate. We must hold ourselves to that very same standard that's set in Policy 9271. Policy discussions should stand on their own merit and be rooted in our established process, not framed through student situations. If we are going to reference student-related concerns, we must do so accurately through protocol and most vitally without compromising confidentiality. I really want to hammer this home. This protocol is designed to protect students and ensure accuracy. I raise this not to assign blame or to be punitive, but to reinforce that our shared obligation is profound. To model ethical conduct, to safeguard students from becoming instruments in governance discourse, and to maintain public trust through accuracy and restraint. Recommitting to this standard protects our students, protects and preserves the credibility of our board, and reflects the values we expect our schools to embody every day. Finally, I want to be clear about where our energy is best spent as a governing body. Rather than amplifying or even attempting to correct reporting that is unverified, incomplete, and harmful, particularly when it appears in external outlets, we would be far better served by grounding ourselves deeply in our own bylaws, policies, and clearly defined roles as Board of Ed members. Our authority and credibility do not come from public spectacle. They come from disciplined governance, fidelity to process, and a shared understanding of the responsibilities that we carry. This board does not and will not govern by perpetuating or reacting to false narratives. This is not even about a specific bylaw violation, but it is about the 4,519 students that embody Enfield Public Schools and the duty that we have to them.
Thank you. Any other comments? I'm going to go to.
You can go first.
Thank you, Mr. Cover.
All right. Thank you, Madam Chair. So I just want to start with, this is the time of year high school seniors can identify and apply for scholarships. You won't be awarded any if you don't apply. So take your time, do your research, and see which ones you may be eligible for, and go ahead and complete the requirements. Your parents and guardians will thank you for sure. Time is of the essence, as several scholarships have early deadlines, potentially as early as January 31st of this year. Some specific scholarship programs I want to highlight are National Guard Association of Connecticut, abbreviated NAGACT, offers scholarships for members and their dependents. More information, including a full list of those eligible to apply, can be found at nagact.org. That's NGACT.org. The Connecticut National Guard Foundation, Inc., is also announcing its 2026 to 2027 academic year scholarship program. This organization offers annual scholarships to members of the Connecticut National Guard and organized militia and their sons, daughters, or spouses. Sons and daughters of Connecticut National Guard retirees are also eligible to apply. This year, the foundation will award a total of 11 scholarships, and you can visit ctngfi.org for further information. The International Association of Firefighters, IAFF, also offers an additional number of scholarships for both members and their dependent family members. Please visit iaff.org/scholarships for more information. Lastly, I want to provide a friendly reminder about Board Policy 6146, which will require students graduating in 2027 and beyond to complete their FAFSA, which is free application for federal student aid, to either complete the application or have a waiver. While the overall FAFSA deadline annually is June 30th, the priority deadline for most post-secondary institutions is March 2nd of this year. Given some of the conversations and communications following our last meeting, I do want to clarify a couple of definitions, including what is a complaint and what is confidential student information. Confidential student information is something that refers to what we call PII, personally identifiable information, and information that is protected like laws like the Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act, commonly abbreviated as FERPA. A complaint, in the sense of us, is a formal grievance initiated or filed pursuant to a specific law or policy. The district has established procedures for individuals seeking administrative remedies depending on the specific situation. When it comes to this full assembly, in accordance with our policy 1312, this body only serves as an appellate authority for written complaints concerning school personnel, and only after initial referral to the superintendent of schools. As elected representatives, however, dialoguing with members of the public, answering basic questions, providing generalized information, including referencing established policy, is precisely what members should be doing. Publicly providing nonspecific remarks on significant incidents, events in and around the EPS community supports informing stakeholders, demonstrates awareness and responsiveness, and encourages transparency. Consistent with democratic principles, industry standards, as well as our current board policy 1000, these types of discussions promote community relations by increasing public understanding of the school system. They increase community confidence and interest in the school system and promote the effective dissemination of information concerning school activities. I do want to conclude tonight with a quote from Milton Friedman, American economist and statistician. One of the greatest mistakes is to judge policies and programs by their intentions rather than their results. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cover. Mr. Art.
Thank you, Ms. Pickett. Thank you, Ms. Brooke-Julio, for your words. I completely agree with you. Before every meeting, I take time to carefully consider my words and the impact they may have, not only on the adults in this room and those watching, but also on the students who may be listening as well. As we approach the end of the month, I want to highlight something critically important about January. It is Mental Health Awareness Month. Mental wellness is not only something we must attend to in our own lives, but something we must actively protect and nurture in the lives of the children around us. Studies show that nearly 40% of high school students report persistent feelings of sadness or hopelessness. 20% have seriously considered suicide. These numbers are even more concerning for certain groups, Over 50% of female students and more than 65% of LGBTQ plus teens report experiencing persistent sadness or hopelessness. Research also tells us something powerful. Having just one supportive adult in a young person's life can significantly reduce suicide risk among LGBTQ plus youth. Studies show nearly a 40% reduction in suicide attempts when a young person feels accepted by even one adult, whether that adult is a parent, teacher, or trusted member of the community. I want our youth to know that I am one of those supportive adults, and I know I'm not alone. There are many others in this town who stand with me. Please do not be afraid to reach out to your safe person. You are not a burden, and you do not have to navigate this alone. Mental health is still too often treated as a taboo topic, something people avoid out of fear of how they will be perceived. That silence is dangerous. We must break the stigma, speak openly, and show up for our most vulnerable, our children. As a district and as a Board of Education, we support over 4,500 students. Each one of these students carries their own experiences, struggles, and needs, and they are counting on us. That is the responsibility we carry for all students, and that is what is truly at stake. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hart. Any others? Mr. Gauss.
Okay, my turn. So I just want to first say my message has always remained consistent. I'm here to support the system, and that includes all of the students equally. In the time that I've been up here tonight, there were 3 other speakers, and 2 of them quoted policy. So quoting policy is not something that we cannot do. Also, on the Code of Ethics, number 6, serve as a communications link between the community and schools, working to ensure the community is fully and accurately informed about the schools. Again, reading policy is something that we are supported in doing. I did not disclose the name of that student, nor will I, to anyone. It's not been disclosed to the superintendent, to the chairman of the board. It doesn't matter the name of the student. And it doesn't matter the reason that they were not comfortable in the bathroom. It could be any reason. It could be because there's others vaping in the bathroom, that there's, they need increased privacy for a health matter. Anything can happen, or just anxiety. They need to go cry for a little bit. It doesn't matter why. Everybody should know that they should feel comfortable and safe in going into a private restroom. Beyond that, I fully support the ability of kids that are trans or whatever to do what they need to do. But we have to support the kids that feel uncomfortable with that too. It's a group thing. We all have to support each other. And people are getting offended for what I see as no reason, because they really should be doing what they can to make themselves feel comfortable in those schools. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gauss. Ms. McGuire-Bruce.
All right. I want to begin by thanking our DPW crews. This storm brought a significant amount of snow. I know many of them have not slept much over the last few days. I know many of them personally and how much pride that they take in their work. We are incredibly fortunate to have such a dedicated team keeping our roads safe for our community and working to ensure our students can get to school safely. I also observed them continuing snow removal efforts today, including loading trucks to move snow, and I hope that they are able to get some well-deserved rest tonight. I also want to acknowledge that today's decision between a delay and a snow day, I'm sure, was a difficult one. I know these calls are never easy, and I appreciate the time and effort that went into assessing the conditions this morning. I did receive several calls and messages from families with concern, and I did encourage them to reach out directly to the superintendent so that their voices could be heard. While DPW worked hard to clear the roads and school properties, families also raised concerns about conditions students encountered beyond school grounds, such as the amount of snow and the height of snowbanks on corners where children are waiting for buses, especially in the neighborhoods that are already challenging for buses to navigate. We also need to think of our many walkers and families who may not be able to drive their children to school each morning. With continued snow removal today, the many DPW trucks I saw. I'm hopeful that those valid concerns will be improved for tomorrow. My intent in sharing this is simply to acknowledge the concerns families express and to add to our ongoing conversation about how we weigh the many factors that go into the weather-related decisions, always with student safety in mind. That's all I have tonight.
Thank you. Any others? No. Perfect. I will wrap up our board member comments. I also was going to thank DPW and Building and Grounds. I will remind the public that a lot goes into making these decisions, and I appreciate the efforts of our community to make our roadways safe. I will remind drivers that the snow continues to come, so please be mindful of our walkers and kids waiting at the sidewalks, and please be careful as you navigate our roads. I also just want to shout out, I loved hearing about the student leadership opportunities in our community, so thank you for sharing your updates, students. I also wanted to thank the girls basketball team. Last Friday, they hosted a great event that included our young basketball players. I know my children really benefit from these opportunities to be around these wonderful scholars we have at the middle school and high school, so thank you for those who continue to do that work. And Phil and Dean, while I appreciate your comments and justifications, I do want to clarify that any student concerns should be shared through our established procedures, which is informing the superintendent. All right, we will move on to unfinished business, which is none. And now move on to new business. Superintendent Macchio, discussion and possible approval of the town council termination agreement.
So you should have included in your packet a signed copy of the termination agreement. This was this was approved by the town council last week and has been passed along to us. It does require a Board of Education vote, and then I would imagine that the board would approve this, and then Chairperson Pickett would please sign. And as of that point, your MOU would be no longer something we need to talk about.
Thank you. All right, so can I have a motion to approve the termination of the Memorandum of Understanding Agreement with the Town Council?
I make a motion to approve.
A second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Mr. Kober?
All right, thank you, Madam Chair. So I indicated much of my opinion on this item during my board member communications during our last meeting. However, now that the Town Council has acted on this subject to the agreement of the board, I just want to briefly echo my sentiments. I'm pleased that the MOU concerning the repayment of additional funds is pending termination, and the repayment of funds to the town no longer needs to be factored into our future budgets. This MOU did have several requirements, some that I hope will continue. I know one of them includes quarterly updates between the board and the town. So while not mandated, if we dissolve the MOU, I hope that that sharing of information will continue. One of the other requirements that was also completed was our recently discussed internal controls audit. And this, again, just to highlight that process, it offered administrators, elected officials, and the public additional insight on the factors that exacerbated a fiscal shortage, notably for the 2023-2024 fiscal year. While that audit was paid for and completed by the town, it was shared to us, and many of the audit findings were things that we have already committed to improving. One of the things I noticed in the audit findings that wasn't shared includes consideration of zero-based budgeting. I just want to briefly share that. This methodology requires that every expense be justified for each new fiscal year, starting from a zero base. Unlike traditional budgeting, which typically uses the prior year's budget as a baseline and adjusts up and down from there, zero-based budgeting, or ZBB, requires department heads or managers to build the budget from scratch. This option allows for resources to be allocated based on current needs and strategic goals, not historical patterns. This can be completed to formulate a draft budget, and once built, can be evaluated. In our case, the school boards have what's called State Minimum Budget Requirement, an MBR, which in short is a summary that a town may not budget less for education than it did in the previous fiscal year, with a few exceptions if it can demonstrate specific achievement changes within the town or local school district. So I do want to highlight that as part of the audit because, again, that was tied to this MOU. And while, again, I do support rescinding the MOU, there was a lot of lessons learned, including the audit itself and shared communication between the board and the town that I hope we will continue regardless if this MOU exists or not. Thank you.
Mr. Kober, any other discussion? So I'm looking at you, Steve. I imagine that we will continue to share our financial statements and updates with the town. That is something that we've been doing regularly. I will also kind of echo some of Phil's comments around that this will help us be able to budget more sustainably and help the taxpayers. Like, the reality is we were just shifting money back and forth between the town to the school, then back to the town. So this will allow us to more effectively budget with taxpayer funds. Anything you wanted to add there? Good.
No, I did make a note to make sure at our next leadership meeting that we have with the town that we'll discuss the quarterly update and potential to continue that. The zero-based budgeting comment, just to be clear, every single, and I'll go into my budget in the future, but every department head and every principal is requested to submit for everything that they wish to submit for. So they do literally have to build up from zero. So we are following that. It's not just they add a percentage on top. You guys hopefully will see that in the presentation. And then lastly, and the MBR is difficult to understand. But the one piece that is not difficult to understand, no matter what occurs in the town of Enfield, because you are an alliance district, you cannot receive any funds less than the previous year, regardless of what we do, because you have that item placed on this.
Thank you for those clarifications. Any other discussion regarding this? Roll call vote.
Mrs. Cushman?
Yes.
Mr. Anderson?
Yes.
Ms. Brocculio?
Yes.
Mrs. Gerard?
Yes.
Mr. Gauss?
Yes.
Mrs. Kiner?
Yes.
Mr. Kober?
Yes.
Mrs. McGuire Bruce?
Yes.
Board Chair Pickett?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you.
And I have the document here for you to sign.
Perfect. I'll make sure to sign that before I leave. 11B, review and possible adoption of an updated 25-26 school budget based on the town council allocation. So Steve, I'll hand it over to you.
And so you have the object lines that are listed in your packet. We have $285,000 additional that was appropriated by the town council, roughly broken out, because obviously everything is about how quickly we can hire, if we can hire, and all of that type of nature, and if benefits are taken. So we broke this out to be within the salary account, $28,000, $7,000 for the personal services or employee benefit side, and then the $250,000 is all, the rest of it is all to go into the property. There is a basic breakdown underneath that so that you can see what those items would be. And again, some of this replacement furniture for the high school library, we used projections. You know, we will now move forward with that. Could come in a little higher, could come in a little lower, and then we will ebb and flow within that 700s property line within that.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. Can I have a motion to adopt the revised budget?
Motion.
Second.
Thank you. Discussion? Come on, Mr. Kober. Oh, Mr. Anderson.
Beat me to it. Through the chair to the super, did you go to the town, or did the town come to you about the $285,000 for the budget?
I will answer that. The town came to us asking what we could use and need.
When?
Right before the holiday break, in December.
You said us.
They came to the superintendent, and the mayor asked me as well.
Okay, so they went to you.
We have a monthly leadership meeting at the monthly leadership meeting.
All right, so they didn't come to the Board of Education, they went to you and the leadership.
They came to the superintendent and board leadership.
Okay. All right, I just want to make it clear to anybody that's watching that adding this $285,000 onto the budget halfway through the year affects the MBR for upcoming budgets. So next year's budget, at a bare minimum, is this year's budget plus the $285,000 on top of that. I look at it as the equivalent of the town has given us a subscription that we didn't ask for, that we have to pay for. That's it.
Any other comments?
I wasn't sure if we knew exactly, but do we know how much the percent is, or how much, as far as I know, dollar amount, the 285, as far as the MBR goes? Like, what is the significance? Do you know what I'm saying?
It just increases our budget line by $285,000. So
Okay. So I meant like percentage wise, because I know that we can't go over, or they can't go under that certain percent, correct? Do we know what the percentage ends up being?
Well, it's not a percentage.
No.
It's a dollar amount.
Oh, it is? Okay.
Yeah. So the
Thank you.
dollar amount
I
of
just
our
wanted to-
appropriated budget last year, next year, like, that's their starting point.
Yes.
So because this adds to it, this would be the baseline, if that makes sense.
Got it. Okay.
I'm actually going to try to do some quick math while we continue through this. Because this wasn't approved prior to all of the creation of all of the budget documents, I based our percentage increase on current appropriation. I'm going to look to add this in a little bit. So obviously the denominator is going to go up by 285,000. It's going to make a minuscule change to the percent increase, but it will be different than what I'm going to present, and it will get updated in 2 weeks for the next time we talk about this.
Thank you. And I think that's my point that I'm trying to drive home, is the minuscule amount that it probably will go up. So thank you.
thank you, Mr. Macchio. Any other comments? Mr. Kober?
Some comments. Thank you, Madam Chair. So this item before us is a result of a town council initiated resolution which increases our fiscal appropriation mid-year for this year. While we are currently projected to conclude this year with an ample surplus, as we had previously discussed during our previous meeting, and we had had some information from our finance and budget updates. So this mid-year appropriation that we did not initiate through our policy and statute is unprecedented and can be recognized as not a need-based decision. While the funding for an additional music position and school equipment can be put to good use, this was not necessarily a need-based or critical transaction. Moreover, as we started discussing, as a fiscal appropriation to the BOE from the town, this does affect the MBR, which we've talked about. So by virtue for that, this is a recurring increase going into future year. It's not a one-time gift or a donation, or as we discussed during grants, where grants are supplemental dollars that are given to us that can't be used to supplant programs. This money is coming in as part of our appropriation. So stay with me, but I'm going to throw a little curveball here. So I want to introduce a motion to amend the recommended revised budget. So with the additional appropriation of 285, my motion is we allocate 200,000 to our 100 line item for salaries, 85,000 to the 200 line item for employee benefits, and not allocate anything towards the property lines. And in addition to the instrumental music teacher hired as specified, I would encourage that we post for other vacancies such as teaching assistants and substitute teachers, as they could be more easily filled mid to late year. Additionally, with those two line items, based off our budget reports, there is a potential of lost revenue as a result of the Magnet Schools Assistance Program funding grant, which is coming through open choice but funded by the federal government. So during previous meetings, I know I've talked about prioritizing programs and people over property lines, so that's why I would like to introduce that motion to amend how we spend this money.
The motion was made and seconded. Do we have discussion on the motion, or do we vote on the motion?
Discuss on the motion.
Discuss on the motion. Perfect. I have some initial just comments that I'll share. One is, Phil, I would have wished that you would have shared this ahead of time so we could have had some discussion about this. Second, I will say that our superintendent has sustainably budgeted and has put items there that are typically things that we don't ever get to have in our budget. And thirdly, I'll say hiring of personnel at this point of the school year is incredibly difficult. And I think the only reason we added the music position was because we actually have some interest in somebody that we can quickly hire. Other clarifying comments?
I'll just also say, I think that we speak often, and this is something that you could have brought to us beforehand if you wanted us to be able to seriously consider it.
I will just add, obviously, we do try to talk about things in advance. This was obviously kind of late coming to us through getting the agenda, working through it this weekend. And then obviously at the end of the day, obviously all our business is conducted in a public meeting. So this, while we could have discussed it, by the time I had it together and formulated, we would have been sitting here anyway.
All right, any other, yep, go ahead.
Yeah, I was actually going to make comments similar to Mr. Kober's, except that mine are a little bit more music-oriented. Music has been a great benefit to my family, and I know one position was listed to be put in there to increase the amount of music education in the 5th grade. Well, presumably, we're going to have 4 schools, and I just think more than one teacher would be good. And I question some of these supplies as far as ones that are not for the high school or middle school, because being optimistic, we're going to tear down and replace all of the elementary schools, and presumably all with new gear. And I just don't see that as a sustainable, well, not so much sustainable, but as a good investment towards the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gauss.
I just want to make a comment. First of all, it's not our job to decide how that money is spent. But also I want to say, as a teacher and anybody who's been in those buildings, the elementary school furniture has been there, lots of it, since the 90s. And yes, I'm hopeful that we're going to be getting new buildings, but we're talking years from now. And those chairs are falling apart. There's a need, or our superintendent wouldn't have asked for it.
Can I have we have 2 students here. These students deal with the library furniture on a day-to-day basis. The library furniture, and I'm sorry that this is going to come across a little bit. The furniture hasn't been replaced since the high school renovation. That's unheard of. We have second used furniture in your high school, which is your flagship. I don't know if you guys have any take on the furniture in the library, the fact that you can't move tables without them potentially falling apart, but we have 2 opportune consumers here that I think you should hear from.
Go ahead.
I will say, although I don't spend a whole lot of time in the library because it's not necessarily a class, every time I've gone in there for a project and sat down any chair, they're all squeaky and they all shake as you sit because none of them are stable, along with the tables, and they could definitely use an update.
Thank you. Do we do a roll call on the motion? Nope, sorry. Chase.
Yeah, I heard that over there. I actually do think the library, especially this year and last year, has gotten a lot more use, especially with study halls, a lot of them being conducted in the library. So an investment in better furniture is definitely an investment for the students that spend a good amount of time in that library.
Thank you. I forgot about the change in schedule and how study halls impacts that, so thank you.
So, Madam Chair, we could do it, but then roll call.
Thank you. All right, so we will do a hand vote. Those in favor of Phil's motion, amendment to the motion, raise your hand. That looks like 3 in favor. Gosh, I can't do math on the spot. That means 6 against. Oh, yeah, sorry, thank you. 3 in favor. Those against the motion? Against. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 against. 1 abstention. Thank you for clarifying that. Thank you. Sorry about that. All right, now we're back to the main motion, which was approving as is. And Ms. McGuire-Bruce, I think you had a clarifying comment.
Yeah, I was going to save this for my finance, but sounds like it makes sense here. So as chair of the finance committee, I would like to provide some context regarding the current budget balance. During this discussion, a town councilor raised the issue of the Board of Education's non-lapsing funds and suggested that those funds be used to address the items under consideration. I would like to clarify that point. At this time, the Board of Education has approximately $1.5 million in the non-lapsing fund. It is important to note, however, that this figure could change significantly pending forthcoming health insurance information as well as any unforeseen changes in student enrollment or emerging student needs. The uncertainty is the reason the Board of Education has been requesting a meeting of the Joint Insurance Committee. Our goal is to gain a clearer understanding of projected health insurance costs and to determine what portion of the non-lapsing fund may be needed to address those expenses. We appreciate the town's partnership in helping to schedule that meeting so we can make informed decisions moving forward. I also want to be clear that the board's intention is not to save or sit on these funds. Rather, we fully anticipate that these dollars may needed to be addressed rising and unpredictable health insurance costs, and they are being held to ensure we can responsibly meet those obligations. Finally, I would like to just commend the superintendent and his administration team for their thoughtful budgeting practices, particularly in the light of recommendations from the most recent audit calling for a more cautious approach to budgeting. I believe we can all agree that avoiding another perfect storm situation is a shared priority, which is why maintaining fiscal caution is essential and why it would be irresponsible to commit those funds to other purposes before our insurance obligations are fully understood.
Thank you. Any other discussion on the motion? Mr. Kober?
There were some floor cushions, just where those were going to go. And then I know there was talk about a digital platform at the high school, so I just want to confirm if that's still part of the intended utilization of these funds.
Before we get to the cushions, we would start with the elementary classroom desks and chairs. So you have a number of elementary classrooms which are still sitting in 1970 furniture. So we're looking at making some significant upgrades to those. That is an item where we did include some increased funding within the upcoming budget presentation, but this would obviously allow us to do a number of classrooms. And for the cushions, while we are going to be getting, potentially, I also wish to be optimistic, Dean, or Mr. Gauss, about the new schools. The cushions are something that would go along with us. As you may or may not know, the use of rugs inside of elementary classrooms is becoming less and less. It's actually a big no-no, indoor air quality and things of that nature. So the cushions allow the students a more comfortable seat than just on the tile vinyl type of floor. There's also some other athletic equipment in terms of soccer goals that were mentioned as part of that. In speaking with the athletic director, he's been requesting some soccer goals for a number of years. You know, zip ties and duct tape and things like that is not sort of what we want to do continually moving forward. Right, Olivia, soccer player? And the last item that was included in there was some digital signage and things of that nature for the athletic entrance. And I've mentioned this to the athletic director, we're going to see what we have left at that point to see whether or not that's the direction we would continue to go. I may make an adjustment in terms of that.
So last point of clarification then. So if we are unable to fund any of these due to price changes and whatnot this year, are we planning to incorporate them into next year's budget, or would they just not happen per se?
I would have to play that by ear and tell you what we end up coming up with. I know for sure there's money included in the elementary classroom desks in next year, but not the number of classrooms that we would be able to take care of through this funding source.
Fair answer. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Roll call vote on this one.
Mrs. Cushman.
Yes.
Mr. Anderson.
No.
Ms. Broculio.
Yes.
Mrs. Gerard.
Yes.
Mr. Gauss.
No.
Mrs. Kiner.
Yes.
Mr. Kober.
Abstain.
Mrs. McGuire Bruce.
Yes.
Board Chair Pickett.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. All right. The moment we've all been waiting for. 11C, our presentation of our preliminary 26-27 budget. Pass it over to you, Mr. Macchio.
Thank you very much. If we had that much conversation about 285,000, I can imagine what we're going to go through for 79 million. Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to take you through a very similar process that I did last year. With that being said, and as I mentioned to you when we were discussing the additional appropriation, I'm giving you a current status of where we're at. This is going to change every 2 weeks for probably the next few sessions. We do need to have this approved and resolved. It really needs to be by the end of February, but for us, that would be the February 24th meeting, unless you wanted to get together one more time after that in a special meeting, because I do need to send it down to the town manager by the end of February. This budget process, as Mr. Kober had mentioned earlier about the different ways we could go about doing this, I could just add percentages on top and just, keep moving forward in that way. We ask everybody to go back and start fresh every single year. So there is a big thank you that I need to give out to the administration, as well as all of the department heads, and even it goes all the way back down to the teachers and making sure that they voice and ask for what it is that they believe they desire and need, because those will funnel their way all the way up to the cabinet level, where we make the final decisions. You have a binder in front of you, and while some of you have had a binder in front of you before, others of you have not. So let's go through the binder a little bit. You have some tabs in there, as well as this budget presentation for you. The first tab that you're going to run across is going to be the summary. That's going to give you the account lines by object code. The way I'd like to describe this is we're going to start off at the highest level, sort of the balcony level, and we're going to work our way down into the absolute finest details that we can get to. So the first one would be the summary. The second one is basically the summary again, except we add a column, because the question you should be asking is, well, why has it changed? So you have a column on the far right, and that is the summary, that is the explanation of variance column. Going down to the next tab, you have an object breakdown. If you want to know the budget, that's the one you start with. That is every single account line, including revenue lines that we have added into the budget. So that will tell you sort of the finest details of what you can have related to it. One of the questions that often comes up is about staffing. So you have a tab regarding staffing. Those are current figures of the FTE report for 25-26. Those do not include the additional positions. So any additional positions, because they're not official by any means, because this is a proposed budget, this is our anticipated fundings that we need. So we did not include those. You'll see those as we go forward in the presentation more. Yeah, the next tab is enrollment. Now, enrollment, I would normally just give you sort of your overall, it would almost be a recap of the end of November enrollment report. I included the full MP planning enrollment projection report that we did as part of the pre-referendum committee. And I did that because I did two different enrollment studies. I did my normal Dr. Prouda enrollment projection, but MP planning does a little more detail in terms of the anticipated housing changes that we're going to may or may not see over the course of the next few years. So I want to make sure I gave you that one for a little more detail. And then lastly, you have the town and the state information. And you have a couple of different items in there. You have some breakdowns related to what the NCEP is, the net current expenditure per pupil. I break that down in a couple of different ways for you within that section. And you'll see this within the presentation as well. You have the definitions so that you understand what net current expenditure per pupil actually means and how it's factored into excess cost grant reimbursements, some listings of who we would compare ourselves to. While you won't find much information on the state website anymore about DERGs, they really do provide a comparison point, because it's about taking a group of towns and comparing their ability to fund education. They may be different sizes, varying different sizes within the DIRG reference groups, but it is about how they're able to fund. You have some MBR information in there, as well as some other stuff from the school and state finance project. So that's just more of background information for you. Okay, so that's your binder. Every time we come back together, every few weeks, I may have additional materials for you to put in your binder, which is why you get a binder. So we'll keep going through that. Oops, I need this thing now. I need to figure out how to work it. There we go. All right, we're going to start off with our first slide is the mission and equity statement. I don't need to read this out loud for you. The mission was, both of these items were brought forward to a previous Board of Education. The mission truly is the North Star. This is the reason we do what we do. This gives us our direction for the district in terms of all of our decision making. The one item to be included in both of these, or that is included in both of these, and I always mention this word because we can't forget the fact that the word is all. This isn't about just one group of students. This is about all of our different students and all of their needs, as we have sort of heard previously this evening. So we have a varying group of kids, and I do have some slides in here that sort of shows how the town has shifted over the last 8 to 10 years. So you'll see some of that, but I think it's important to mention the all. Before we get into next year's budget, we had accomplishments. So last year was the first year where you had all of that reduction in staffing. Even with all of that, we need to celebrate the accomplishments that occurred as part of that school year. Now, some of these accomplishments didn't really come to fruition until this school year, but we did a lot of work last year to explain the why. Why was it that we needed these additional positions as part of the 25-26 budget? You'll see I broke it down into 4 groups: academic, student support, graduates, and extracurricular. One thing I will tell you about the academics, we continue to go in the right direction. We continue to rise. I will say at times we can always rise a little bit faster, but I'm also the kind of person who's sort of never ever happy. We always want to continue to get better at what we're doing, so we can continue to rise when it comes to that. The budget process last spring allowed for those additional student supports that you see within that student support section, as well as the academic team returning to grade 6. I think we've had a lot of positive comments coming out of the middle school. Seems to be running in a completely different nature this year, and much of what you'll hear from the kids and from the teachers is the positiveness as well as the productivity because of those 6th grade teams. Graduates, we continue to graduate that cohort above 90% in terms of the graduation rate. And then extracurriculars, kids are doing well. They're on the rise in terms of academics, but they're also on the rise in pretty much everywhere else that they go in terms of athletics and arts and music. Buzz Robotics winning the Connecticut State Championship last year. Just some examples. There are many, many more, but as you can see, the font gets smaller and smaller and smaller. And I really tried in this binder to move away from the eye test. Because as we get to those tabs, we flipped things, we changed it to landscape, we made the font a little larger. Whether it's just because I'm getting older and having a hard time seeing, or I'm more sympathetic to Mr. Gauss, who complained about the eye test, it is what it is, but we keep going forward. All right, we have 3 budget priorities this year. You have to have a priority. You have to have what is the purpose? What we're truly trying to accomplish within this budget? You can't have everything that you would want. You can't have it all at once, that is for sure. So there are certain items that rise to the top. The budget priorities are student offerings, and you can see we have 3 bullets underneath that related to expanding their engaging academic and enrichment opportunities, the core instruction, whether it be electives, arts, or career pathways. You'll hear more information about the career pathway piece as we move through this. And then high quality curriculum and innovative learning. Second priority is we really want to focus on student, but not just student supports, it's student and staff supports. So you're going to see a little bit of a shift in this budget. Going sort of back a couple of years, we want to bring back some of that additional support and assistance for the teachers. We want to enhance the social, emotional, mental health, and counseling services. that targeted academic support. And as I said, we want to really, what I will say, reinvest in the professional development opportunities we're going to be able to provide our staff. The last bullet, and it's not really sort of, this is all encompassing, and we put it down as a priority, but this is for me, it's an always, right? I don't make decisions that I think aren't going to be able to last. So sustainable funding. So I want to bring forward a budget to you that we can continue to maintain. I don't want to present a budget to you, much like the $285,000, where I bring a bunch of things in and I think I need to take it away the following year. So I think you saw through like the COVID ARP ESSER fundings and things of that nature. When that grant funding goes away, well, either somebody's got to pay for it or the position's got to go away. So we really wanted to make an emphasis on sustainable funding because we want long-term fiscal stability. The other part of it is with sustainable funding, you don't get the roller coaster effect from year to year, right? And you'll see it as we go further in detail about it. We did make some assumptions. There's a lot of assumptions that I can make. These are just sort of the top 6. First of all, that there's over 200 account lines and there's a lot of moving parts. The special ed costs, I think we all know, they continue to rise. I'm sort of going to lump those special education costs continuing to rise. I'm going to lump number 1 and number 6 together. Our excess cost grant reimbursement, we're supposed to receive 91%. We're not going to ever receive 91% unless they fully fund excess cost. We're actually supposed to receive 100%, but 91% was the latest legislation. We had budgeted for, I want to say 75% for current year. We're looking at potentially only 70%. So as soon as we receive that initial reading from the State Department in terms of what we believe we'd be receiving, we immediately dropped down our expectation for excess cost reimbursement. And it's one of these factors where excess cost from the state is a budget line. Whatever hundreds of millions of dollars that they put there. That's a flat number. As costs go up, all they can do is divvy that out to the same number of towns. So as costs go up, you get a little less of a percentage that you should receive. Number 2, educational cost share grant. Because you are Alliance funds, or because you are an Alliance district, or Enfield is an Alliance district, the town and the Board of Education through the Alliance grant will be guaranteed to receive the same amount. Number 3, talk to me after the legislative session. I'll be more than happy to tell you what else they're going to tell us to do, and they're not going to give us any money to do it. So there is that portion of it. Grant funding for number 4, you'll see this will tie into the sustainable funding. We will continue to optimize our use of it to supplement our support staffing and program needs. And then the last one is the funding for magnet and Ag-Sci or VOAG school tuition. You have to pay the bill when it comes in. It's only 58% of the 23-24 tuition rate, which legislatively, we might see a change come because they haven't made that adjustment for the last few years. And we all know tuitions generally go up every year. So those are the assumptions that we made. Budget development, not going to spend a lot of time on this. Same process as last year. I know we talked about it when we originally kicked off the budget about whether or not the charter passed or didn't pass. The big one for us, as you have tonight, you have the 10th. And then by the end of the 24th, like I said, we really need to have an approved budget that I can send downtown. This has been October, November, December, now January. We're 4 months into really a 6-month budget cycle that we'll go through. Maybe even sometimes 7, depends on how many times we have to go back to the town council. But it has been happening for a number of months. Okay, that's enough of the background. Here's your overall recommendation as of today. Adjustments, like I said, will continue to be made in the coming weeks. I did mention, I don't know why I closed this, Andy, that this budget does not include the $285,000. When you add the $285,000 in, to our 25-26, our new budget amount is $79,617,249. Our percent object change, so our overall percent object change goes from 4.97, and this is with rounding, to 4.96. It's actually 4.956, but that's 4.96. So that's what our percentage change will be with the extra 285,000. Salary-wise, we have a 4.95% increase, and that's because of the number of additional staff that I am proposing moving forward, as well as their associated benefits. There's more information in coming slides. 300s, we're looking at, I did make a significant reduction to our legal expenses. There's a shift in the use of special education professional services included in the 300s. We removed, if you haven't driven by Stowe lately, look to the back left of that property. You don't see trailers anymore. We did remove those trailers, and I did take the funding out of the budget because we had one last year of rental associated with those. And, you know, previous board heard about the copier contract for, I don't know, a long time. So it does reflect in this, and there was a significant amount of savings because of the reduction in the copier contract. 400s, we reduced use of the reduction in the use of the activity account. So we did a lot of offsetting, and we continue to have a lot of offsetting, but I'm trying to, over the next 2 to 3 years, reduce those offsets so that it becomes sort of Board of Ed funded moving forward. We shouldn't have to rely on the district activity accounts or the high school activity account or things of that nature. So we are making some marked decisions related to those. There was some small facility update that we want to do over at Enfield Street School with the pre-K classrooms. 500s, transportation is the primary driver there. Magnet tuition is the secondary driver, and special education outplacements. And I'm going to go into more detail with all these. 600s, 600s reduced down, and that's about the amount. Last year we had multiple subject textbooks that were being replaced. This projected for next year, we only have a single. I think it's anatomy and physiology is the subject textbook that we're looking at replacing. So there's just the one that's left there. 700 is all about iPads and the lease for the tech replacement plan. And 800s, it's subscriptions that we shifted. Some of the subscriptions, and again, this goes back to the zero-based budgeting. We look at every single one and where it was located within the budget. If it was inappropriately located within the supplies line, but it's actually a subscription or it's a due, an annual due that we have to pay, we shifted it down into the dues and fees. So that's your real high overview in terms of where we're at. What is causing this increase of 4.97, 4.96%? Here's your budget drivers. No surprise here, salaries and benefits. Unlike many other businesses, we need people to do the work that we do. So salaries and benefits is coming out to be 96.5%. Did I not fix that? Excuse me, salaries and benefits is 82.94% of your overall budget. Transportation, 7%, followed by outplacements, 3%. Technology supplies, professional services, and then you get down into 7 and 8, and I could have gone, I think last year I gave you 10. But really talking about under 0.5% of the overall budget when you start getting down into these, and the number of them gets even smaller and smaller and smaller. But again, the primary here is salary and benefits, and that is reflected by the current FTE report of 855.75 FTE, but also with the additional staff that I'm proposing, and you're going to see that in the next few slides. This does also include a buffer to our insurance. So the insurance, the last time we looked at it, the projected next year rate would have been 6%, but we wanted to, they added on a couple of extra percentage points to try to build back up that fund. So we'll see what's going to happen with that. That's going to be one of the items that's going to change over the course of the next month. The rest of the budget, so there's 1, 2, 3, there's 8 of these here. The other 196 account lines make up 3.5%. So again, this is the primary portion of the budget. I also slid over to the right because if you want to know, if you go into the object breakdown page and you want to look at where the percentage changes are actually occurring, I tried to give you some of the high flyers. So when you look at the tens of or hundreds of thousands of dollars, either increase or decrease or whatnot, these are the notable line items that cause the increases. So if you use this with your object breakdown page, you'll come to the actual dollar amount for why that's occurred. Student enrollment. Additional information, like I said, is in the Board of Education. The additional information is in your binder from the MP Planning. Again, they did a great job in terms of factors in housing and apartment developments and whatnot. It's a little hard, so they gave you three options, not options, there are three scenarios there. If not a lot of growth happens because of the additional housing, if medium, or if high. So we come in anywhere from 4,157 to the high of 4,655. That's based on the 4,547 that we currently have. Using the medium, sort of like bridge the gap between the two, because you have to factor some of this in. Over the course of the next 10 years, the elementary schools are going to be, they anticipate some growth at the elementary level, pre-K through 5. New housing, new developments, new apartments. So they anticipate some younger folks that would be, or some families or whatnot coming in. So the elementary is projected to go over the course of the 10 years, it's going to go from 2132 to 2229. So not huge, around 90, a little over 90 in terms of growth. The change that you're going to see over the course of the next 10 years is going to be at the high school. And this is something that we have to recognize as we continue to move forward and make decisions in terms of what we want to bring in, how we want to change, how we want to rework certain programming or things of that nature when it comes to staffing. The secondary level's currently at 2,416. In 10 years, the secondary, now secondary is 6 through 12. Secondary is going to go from 2,416 to 2,162. So 250 for a change. Now, in those same 10 years, your middle school is projected to get larger. Not by a lot, by like less than 10 kids. So the majority of the loss is going to be at the high school level. So I just think over the course of time, as we move forward from year to year, if we want to talk about staffing levels or reorganizations and things of that nature of, how we're doing what we do, we're going to have to keep that in mind. Because as I mentioned with the funding piece, I don't want to hire a bunch of people that in 3, 4, 5 years, I don't need anymore, right? So we have to figure out how to get us through the next 5-year period. And then as these occur, we take advantage in sort of shift how it is or reinvest how it is that we're utilizing the funding that's associated with them. On the right, you have a breakdown of the total enrollment by school or by the schools, pre-K, K2, 3, 6, and so on. The attendance rate, as well as the ethnicity, and then the students receiving special education services or students receiving special services. And the big one there is limited English proficiency. We're almost at 5%. I put this slide in very last minute, and I apologize, you don't have this in your packet. Okay, you'll have it in next time, so if you can look at the screen in front of you, that'd be great, or turn around behind you. I came across this within that MP planning piece, and I think it just gives you a pictorial representation of really where the district, how it has changed over the 10 years. So you can see in the top left, You have a growing special education population. Now, I will say that's the same across the state. We're mirroring exactly what the state is doing. But from 2016, 2017 to current year, 25-26, and this graph only goes to 24-25 because he did everything based on the October 1 enrollment that we have to submit to the state. But from 16-17 to 25-26, special education has gone from 14% to 3% on the previous slide? A lot of different factors that go into that, right? A lot of different factors. We know COVID didn't help us in any way with that. But also one of the major shifts is just about the intervention modeling and things of that nature. The discrepancy model being sort of put to the wayside. The top right, you have a breakdown of race and ethnicity. Basically, over the last 10 years, your student body has become more and more and more diverse. I think we heard some of those comments from both of our public comments this evening. So from 15-16 to 25-26, we've gone from 27% to 41%. Bottom right, I already mentioned sort of let the cat out of the bag on this one in terms of ELL. 16-17 to 25-26, we've more than doubled, 2% to 4.9%. We had one school become to 3 bilingual.
Can I just clarify, you mentioned that we're at 4.9. What happens when we get to 5%?
It's about the numbers of students that you have in the schools in terms of whether they have to be labeled as a bilingual school. So again, that's where we've had one bilingual school in the past. We've now tripled. So we've gone from 1 school to 3 schools. So it's about the types of services that that program has to provide because of it. So again, last year you heard me request an additional teacher. We'll see what happens in the coming slides. And then bottom left, we have a declining enrollment. There's a number of different factors to that. People are having less kids. People are moving out. People are going different places. I also think these guys have more choices about where they can go and what they want to do than we ever had. You want to go try something different? You want to go to a magnet school here? You want to go to a magnet school there? You want to try sort of, they can make all the choices that they want to have. And we have outstanding programming. We have some of our tech ed programs will rival anybody of a tech ed school you're going to send them to. But they have the option and they can go there if they wish to go there. So on that bottom left, you have it broken down by numbers, but you also have it broken down by which schools have the highest numbers of our students going to them. So that's a little bit about a historical in terms of the enrollment. I think this gives you a little better picture than just, hey, here's how many kids you have going to your schools. FTE report, broken down here by administrators, certified, non-union, and then your total number, 855.75 current FTE that work for the school district. And then on the far right, you'll notice that of those 855.75, 102.5 of those FTE are paid for out of grants. And that's going to become an important item for probably our next to last slide when we get to it. The nutrition fund, all 27 are paid for out of the nutrition funding. You don't fund any of them. Okay, priority 1, student offerings. So for student offerings, really, what we wanted to do is we wanted to maintain the balance that we had across our elementary classrooms. Some of them we project some larger numbers, so we are requesting a couple of additional teachers to help reduce those class sizes. We also want to reduce some class sizes in mathematics at the high school, as well as if we add an additional math teacher at the high school, it gives us the ability to offer some additional financial literacy classes, and that is one of the graduation requirements. And it would shift really some of that financial literacy away from the social studies, which would then free up some spots within the social studies as well. So there's a dual purpose there for why that one was chosen. We have what we are calling a new post-secondary and adult learning coordinator. I bring this up to you we have heard, I think since I got here, about the Career Center and the desire for the Career Center to reopen. This would allow it to be run for a portion of the day, because this person would be overseeing the post-secondary side of things, career pathways. They'd be able to get some of those connections happening again. But this person was also be responsible for all of your adult education learning. So the post-secondary and adult learning coordinator, that's an administrative position. But as you'll see in the slide to come, we have the full rationale behind that. It's a repurposing of current administrative positions, because if you look at your FTE report, you have the same number of administrators next year requested as you do this year. PE teen leadership and teacher at JFK, that helps our PE sizes as well as offers additional electives. And then you're going to have a full-blown presentation, so there is not much else I'm going to say about the RISE program at EHS. This will be a brand-new program that we are proposing for the high school. It would need a special education and 2 behavior techs to get it off the ground. We do see it growing to the point where we would need 2 special ed teachers, 1 for each classroom, and then a couple of behavior techs in each of those classrooms. RISE stands for Respect, Independence, Support, and Empowerment. And again, I have slated as a board guest Ms. Carol and Lauren Andrews to be coming, because there is a connection here between Eagle Academy and the high school as a transitional piece. Page after that gives you the rationale. And I'm more than happy to read this to you if you'd like me to. But I think the pieces on the right are sort of the more important. The library media specialist. Currently do not have a library media specialist at the middle school. The position was taken away as part of the budget cuts. This would come back. We would be able to bring back that person into the library media role. Obviously, the rationale is listed there for you. There's 2 reasons on the far right that I want to point out. First of all, you just had the NEASC report provided to you by the middle school at our last meeting. So there is a recommendation within that NEASC report. And second, the $ with the cross out, this is a no additional funding required. So this is about repurposing some of the people that we have within the middle school, whether it be world language or reading. It's about shifting back their roles to some other places. A lot of this comes at the tails of, as you know, French has been incredibly difficult for us to fill. You just cannot find somebody. We would be moving back to a Spanish-only model at the middle school. There are just over 10 kids that would be affected that would be normally in French who would have to switch over to Spanish. Everybody else, it would be there. If you want to take a world language, you can take Spanish. It's unfortunate, but if we don't put them on a computer for French, we're not able to really provide the program. Grade 5 classroom teachers is obvious, going from 27 in a class down to 22 kids in a class. PE teen leadership, I've already mentioned about the PE classes, increasing flexibility. I will say, and I don't know if Chase or Olivia, if either one of you took teen leadership at the high school, but this is basically the precursor to that teen leadership class. This is not the same curriculum. This is a different curriculum for middle schoolers, and I think you know how popular that program is at the high school. We anticipate this program would be just as popular at the middle school. But it wouldn't take away from your ability to be able to take it at the high school as well. Mathematics, already talked to you about the class sizes, numbers of sections. The RISE program, again, I'm not talking about it because I would not do it the justice that Mrs. Carroll and Mrs. Andrews would do it. Post-secondary and adult learning, administrative position, adult ed, and its associated grants. So this person, because the adult education grant and all of that, I mean, somebody has to write all of these things. So there would typically be a grant writer. This person would be taking on that role. They'd be taking on the summer school programming role. They'd be taking on the adult education from the neighboring districts. But we see it as more of a flexible hour piece where they're not going to come in at the start of the high school day. They'll come in a few hours later so that they can get that career center up and running for a little bit. But when everybody else goes home, they need to be running the adult ed side of things. So sort of the basic information related to that. But the big piece of this is those last two positions, both the RISE program and the post-secondary and adult learning, they're not only no cost to the district, there's potential revenue here for both of those positions. The RISE program, you have the ability to potentially bring in additional students from other districts or open up slots at Eagle Academy to be able to bring people from other districts. And the post-secondary and adult learning coordinator, we get paid by each neighboring district for the number of students that they serve, or?
It's based off their size. So adult ed, we have sending towns that we oversee adult education for all the surrounding towns because we're the largest. We have a large program. So it is tuition based where it's within their budget. So as students increase and we develop satellite programs, that actually could be generating income for the district.
Thank you. You want to do priority 2?
No.
Okay. Priority 2, student and staff support. Basically, we need to continue to support the various specialized in-district programs, social workers, case managers, specialized positions, but also the staff. Number 1, we're bringing back instructional coaches. The instructional coaches would start off at the primary level. Purpose for why I want to start them off at the primary level is all of the work that we're doing in terms of science of reading, as well as the mathematics instruction that we need to continue to shore up. This is not just about science of reading, because there was a little bit of a misunderstanding that as we rolled this forward. But we strongly believe that if we can reinstate these positions, each one, if we are able to provide the professional learning to the staff, that we're going to be able to reduce sort of those overall intervention needs in the future. This is, again, listed as a no additional funds required. This is being funded from a couple of different ways. Some grant fundings that we have from the title grants, those are entitlement grants, but it's also by the reduction of the academic tutors at the primary level. So rather than having the additional 0.5 person that's coming in to provide you a little bit of assistance here, a little bit of assistance there, we really want to attack the overall core instruction so that additional assistance can be reduced. So there would be an offset. The academic tutors at the primary level would no longer be filled. For those folks who would be in those positions, we have a number of paraeducator positions that are actually open. We still have places that we feel as though, should they wish to continue employment in a full-time basis or part-time basis, we can work with them to sort of shift them into some of those open positions. It would be my plan. So again, one of the slides in here is going to talk about how do we want to continue to move forward over the next few years. It would be my recommendation and plan that we start with the primary level for next year, and then for the year after that, we start talking about instructional coaches for the intermediate level. And then again, it would be a similar type of process where the academic tutors would be taken, sort of offset type of work. But again, that's 27, 28 budget that you may hear about that. Special education teacher, the adaptive learning program, just the numbers of students that we have in the adaptive learning program at the middle school requires a second classroom to help reduce their class sizes. We already, I think, talked a little bit about, our EL population. So I am requesting an additional teacher for teaching English to speakers of other languages. This, as you've seen, we've gone from 6 to 7 to 8. Over the last 2 years, the number of mandated bilingual schools has tripled. We already talked about those pieces to it. So, their caseloads are excessive right now. And the way that we need to program for those kids, we do require the additional teacher. An ed tech communication specialist. This is a part-time position that we are proposing. And really, this is about improving district-wide communication. And really, some of it's about Parent Square, but the rest of it is about updating our online presence, especially our website. And that's a major lift. There's a lot of work to be done there, but we need to maintain sort of that modern user-friendly presence that we have. I think that helps with the transparency that we provide to the public. So we are, again, this is about a 19.5 hour position. So it's a part-time position, no benefits associated with it. It's an hourly type of position that we would bring in. Something that we would continue to sort of evaluate over time in terms of how much of that work could be done. I would also allow a lot of the work that our current Director of Instructional Technology has to take on. There's a whole other side. I don't even use the other side of her title. She's the Director of Instructional Technology and Innovation. She can't get to that and innovation part because she's doing so much of the other day-to-day type of process. So this would help us take a little bit more off of that, off of her plate for that. Social worker, we know about the increasing needs that we have for social emotional well-being. This would be a split position, so it's a one position, but it would be split between the elementary school, a few of the elementary schools, whether it's 2 or 3. That would be based on caseload. And then the bottom piece, it just says secretary. I'm not asking for additional secretaries. I'm asking for additional funding so that the secretaries can work more days in the summer. So right now, school lets out, they stay an extra week, they come back a week before, and in that time, in this transient population that I showed you, they have to register everybody. It really bogs down the system, and it makes the beginning of the school year incredibly tough. So this would be for our elementary schools, because we do have full-time, or we do have full-year secretaries at the secondary level. So it would be a number of days that we would ask them to be coming in at their per diem rate, so that we don't have as much of that late summer workload, and it would truly involve a smoother opening for everyone. This one. Priority 3, sustainable funding. There has been, I almost wanted to give you guys a quiz. What were the 3 words that I mentioned to each one of you as we had our new board members come in and have discussion with Mr. Longy and I? Proactive, long-term, and sustainable. Okay? Those are the 3 words that we need to always remember. So through that process, over the next 3 years, I want to incrementally get the account lines, the individual account lines, to a level where I would call them sort of a maintenance level. So basically, look at it this way. I want to reduce the fluctuation, but I want to do it purposefully over the next 3 years. So the technology replacement plan is a perfect example. It's a certain number of dollars that are associated with it. I think it's 200 and something thousand. I'd have to pull out my object breakdown sheet. I'm taking 100,000 of it this year, or for next year, and we're going to offset it by the technology district activity account. The following year, we want to do a little bit less. The year after that, we want to do a little bit less. Same thing we did with Save Our Sports, right? So we received the first check. I used a portion of it. By the way, thank you very much to Save Our Sports. They provided us the second check for an additional a little bit over $60,000. So we're going to use a portion of the balance over the course of the next 2 to 3 years until that athletic fund is fully funded from the Board of Ed. So not making the jump all at once, but sort of systematically over the next few years. I want to reduce the utilization of those district and school activity accounts over that time. There is an increase in district revenue that's going to be anticipated as we are proposing an increase in pre-K tuition. I'm also proposing an increase in the hockey fee, and I'll explain a little bit more about that. And we're also proposing a small increase in sort of our tuition rates for our specialized programs. So pre-K tuition, the updated rate would be, for our half-day programs, it would be $100 per month. This is everything has to be outside of special education and things of that nature. Okay, so this would be for sort of your peer models. $100 per month if it's a half day, $200 per year for a full day. The athletic participation fee, I should quiz you guys. It's $100 per sport, per athlete. If for an individual athlete, if you play 2 or more sports, you get capped at $200. For a family, if you have multiple kids, you get capped at $400 for the year. There's 2 sports that we provide that the families have to pay a little bit extra. One sport, it's a little bit extra. The other sport, it's a bit more. So for golf, because of the additional greens fees and memberships that they charge us at Grassmere, they get charged the $100 for the sport and an additional $100. For hockey gets charged the $100 for the sport, then they get charged an additional $500. Now, I know that seems like, wow. Per athlete, hockey costs the district $2,450, as compared to many other. I think the second highest to that would be golf, which is $974 per. Football, $905. Softball, $883. Many of them fall in the $400 to $700 per athlete range, but there's a significant expense for the hockey program. I want to say next year's budget, Twin Rinks did us no favor. They went up on their fees again, and it's $52,000 for ice time alone. So one of the proposals would be each of the next 3 years, we incrementally increase that. I would say for next year, it's $1,000 for every player, or for every hockey player, $1,200 the year after that, $1,400 the year after that. We have done comparisons to other districts. This is in alignment with them. Some boards take the full, I can't believe they would do this, they take the full rink time fee and say you have to divide it by the number of players that you have. My proposal is to try to bring it into a comparable relationship to your other sport athlete breakdowns. The tuition fees and things of that nature, we're doing a lot of comparisons with other towns. And when you look at it, it's $100 per month for a half-day pre-K program. That's $1,000 a year that we'd be asking the families to be paying, or $2,000 a year. Thankfully, my children were never in daycare or things of that nature, but in some conversations I recently had with my own child, we talked about how much daycare actually costs. And while this isn't daycare, this is education, it's significantly less than if they were to put their child into a daycare system. So that's the number 3 there. Number 4 is the continual implementation of our replacement plans. Last year, we talked about the tech replacement plan. This year, we've started to begin the furniture fixture replacement plan. Again, a portion of those, or a number of classrooms in addition to what we had planned, will be done because of the $285,000, but we got a lot more classrooms that we need to do in terms of the elementary level. All right. I'm just giving you this for information. So this is our net current expenditures. This is a list of every every local education agency across the state. It goes from the highest per pupil expenditure on the top left to the lowest on the bottom right. So we are currently, Enfield for 24-25 was ranked 156 out of 165. Our net current expenditures was $18,564. I wanted to include what goes into that. All of our expenditures related to public elementary and secondary education, our special education from local or state federal sources, and then the big one, because I know this has come up in the past, of what would our NCEP be if we had our custodians, if we had our maintainers, if we had all, those are what's called in-kind services. So last year, fiscal year 25, we reported to the State Department of Education $9,419,325.46 of in-kind services. So in other words, services that the town took care of on our behalf. Those do factor in to our NCEP, our per pupil expenditure. What does not get factored in, you can see listed there: public transportation, tuition revenue, food services, adult ed, health, welfare. And then it's all based on our average daily membership, right? So if it's a fraction. The numerator is how much did you spend? The denominator is how many kids did you have? So our average daily membership, I think they had us around, I have it on the next slide probably, 4,853 is what they have down in terms of our average daily membership. Now, remember, it's more than just the kids you have enrolled in your schools, right? This is based on the number of students that you have with living within the town of Enfield that are attending or that could be educated through the Enfield Public Schools. So you have three sort of charts here. The far left gives you the chart. The reason why they're colored differently is those are all Durg F, whereas the slide before, that is everyone in the state. The next slide here is just Durg F. So the chart on the bottom left shows you what our NCEP, our per pupil expenditure, has been over the course of the last 6 to 7 years. There was a major fluctuation in the middle, and I want to say that was I can't read it. I want to believe that's the COVID year. Top right, if you want to compare us to surrounding towns, you have a comparison to basically what I did is I took out our Durg map and I hit every town that borders us, as well as any of them that would be in close proximity beyond that. So East Windsor all the way over to, I think we heard a lot about South Windsor last year. So you have a twofold bar graph there. You have the student membership in blue. So you can see Enfield is one of the larger districts. So if you want to compare Enfield, South Windsor, Manchester, and probably Windsor, maybe Vernon in there, those are about somewhat similar sizes. And then the bottom right is net current expenditure per pupil by district size. So that bottom right chart is only, let's go back to this, it is every town, but the bottom right chart takes only those districts that range from 4,000 to 6,000 pupils, their average daily membership, because that's about our size district, right? It's very hard to compare us to Union, right? They have one building. Summers, very small compared to us. It's just tough to do that, so I wanted to give you some basis for where we fall as related to similar sized districts. What does all that mean? I'm going to start this slide by telling you this slide is not up here because I want or because I am requesting or because I am proposing this difference to be made up in 1 year. But we got here over decades of time, right? You're not going to make an adjustment to this in a year, in 5 years, but we need to start making an adjustment on a yearly basis. So we're obviously the lowest here in terms of this chart. Again, it was pulled from the previous chart as well. 18,564. We heard a lot about South Windsor last budget session. South Windsor's per pupil expenditure, NCP, $18,601. $37 difference. What is $37? When you multiply times 4,853, it's $180,000. That's 2 teachers, and not starting teachers. Those are middle-aged, middle of the chart teacher with benefits. If you want to compare us to East Windsor, who we lose people to, now again, it's very hard to compare. 2 completely different districts, one large, one small. $8,800 difference in per pupil. You'd have to add $42.6 million for us to have the same per pupil expenditure. Come on, never going to happen, right? Absolutely not. But when you look at the Vernons, the Manchesters, the Ellingtons, we have to start slowly and incrementally chipping away and providing some of those services that these other districts are able to provide. That's all this is meant to be. Again, I want to emphasize, not expecting or asking for this to happen in a short period of time. But every year we need to start bringing it up and asking and proposing. Grants and revenues, almost done, I promise. Chase is like, I gotta go, I got a midterm tomorrow. Grants and revenues. This is a listing of all 2025-26 grants. This is harder than you think to put together because the grants some of them are 2-year grants, and I tried to label them there for you. Special Education, IDEA Part B, 2-year grant. Title III English Language Acquisition Grant, Title IV 2-year grant. Those are all 2-year grants. So this is the list of what we currently have running for 25-26. The top right chart is our anticipated revenues as built into the 26-27 budget. So you could take those numbers and find them in your object breakdown. They're red. You can't miss them. I tried to make them stand out there for you. And then the last piece here for this upcoming proposed budget, really the requested appropriation, $83,278,214.05, add $285,000 on top of that. The anticipated grants in nutrition, a little over $7 million. We anticipate the revenue of above of $6.7 million. What it will cost proposal-wise to run this district next year is $97,110,286.56. Proposed, estimated, anticipated, because as we all know, things change. Lastly, last slide. How did we get here? What are we going to do? This is more than just 1 year, right? Well, last year, we started by trying to rebuild past programming. We really worked hard on decreasing elementary class sizes for this year. The student-identified extracurricular activities, I heard from all the kids, they wanted middle school sports back, they wanted all the after-school activities back. We did that, and we did it with late buses. So we were able to bring a bunch of that back. We started the technology replacement plan. I provided you with a brand new what I would call an incredibly transparent process in terms of budgeting, in terms of where the funding is going, where it's coming from. And then we also implemented trauma-informed restorative practice professional development. That's all this year. For next year, you can see the items that we are sort of attacking and we believe we have included within this budget. And then for future years, you know, what after this? Well, we need to continue. We need to continue to rebuild the past programs. Again, I'll go back to that previous slide. You're not going to replace everything that you lost in 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. We need to slowly, incrementally do it so we can maintain it. We need to continue to maintain and reduce class sizes. And notice the parentheses, as needed. We review them every year. I had a conversation with a principal the other day. He's concerned about his class size. What happens if my enrollment? What happens if I get more registration? Well, we continue to review it. You know, we're not going to put you in a position where your class sizes are going to go back to where they were 2 years ago. We want to increase our industry-recognized credential opportunities at the high school. We want to continue implementing the transportation efficiencies and accessibility, and we believe that we have some more room for growth there in terms of the transportation. Obviously, this is year one. We'll make some ebbs and some shifts there. Personally, I think we do a disservice at the elementary school because we don't have library media specialists. If you want to show that literacy is important, you bring kids to the library and you get books in their hands every single week. I wanted it in this budget. I couldn't get it in. In the future, I think it's something we need to look at. And to Mr. Gauss's point from before, yeah, we need to factor this in about where would that be appropriate? How could we do it? Because we may be going from 6 elementary down to 4. So how do we utilize those resources? When's the appropriate time to do it? I want to minimize, as I said before, the district activity offsets. And lastly, if you have 4 brand new state-of-the-art, beautiful elementary schools because the townspeople voted and approved it, we're going to reimagine everything, because what we can provide in those buildings versus our current buildings, we're worried just about whether or not the heat's going to come on or whether the water's going to work. Or whether the water's going to drip out of the ceiling. We need to reimagine sort of the program. We need to reimagine it from the parent side, from the student side, what we can provide for community resources and supports. So there, again, a lot of work to be done, a lot of work still to be done. This is going to change in 2 weeks. It will not take me however long it took me tonight, because the next time I present it, I'll just talk to you about the changes that are included. Any questions or comments? I'll be happy to try to answer for you now or write them down and get back to you in the future.
Right, so I'm going to make a couple quick comments before we get into discussion. One is, this is our thank you, Superintendent Macchio, for this thorough presentation and our budget binder and all this information. Thank you to all the staff who went in and did all the work up until now to get us this. Thank you, Leslie, for putting this all together. So thank you for the work. As far as us board members, tonight's our first discussion. So of course, I don't expect you to have like all your questions ready and ready to go. So we can have some preliminary discussion tonight. If you want to, you can email me questions after tonight, and we can compile a list of questions around the budget that we can ensure that gets to Steve so we can incorporate them before next budget presentations. With that, I will open up for budget discussion. I'm going to look to our student reps first, because I know you have exams and you've been staying for this very thoughtful discussion, so I appreciate that. So I want to just see if there's any initial comments or questions that you all have.
I had a question through the chair to the superintendent. Is that right? Okay. I just wanted a little clarification on the sports fees. So I remember you said, if I'm correct, you are adding a little bit to the sports fees just to make more revenue for the district. Is that correct?
Only to the hockey fee. Everybody else stays the same.
So I was just wondering if it would make more sense to almost add more to all of the sports rather than just the hockey. I mean, hockey already pays so much more compared to the other sports. So that, I don't know, that's just my question.
That's a good question. Relative to what everybody's paying on a per sport fee, the $100 is pretty similar. The hockey is an incredible outlier, and I feel as though I'm picking on hockey, and I really don't mean to be that way, but when we looked at the comparisons to the other districts, it's the hockey that's the outlier.
I think it might also just help to clarify, how much do we pay for ice time?
Well, I said it, $52,000 next year.
Perfect, thank you. Thank you for those thoughtful questions. Chase, not to put you on the spot.
But listen, if you wanted to provide a donation, Olivia.
Good. Perfect. All right, other board members. Mr. Kober.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I'll just begin by echoing your thanks. Thank you to Superintendent Macchio for the detailed presentation and accompanying materials. I look forward to thoroughly reviewing your recommendations, asking questions, and providing feedback. My first question, just through the chair to the super, I know last year and previous years, we kind of utilized like a SharePoint where we were able to ask questions that way. You were able to respond immediately. Do you intend to do that again?
Yeah, I'll send out a form, and I think you guys just basically submitted. Mm-hmm. And then I'm able to keep track and answer right within that. Yep, okay. I'll push that out.
And I do get some other comments. I want to give other people a chance, but I just also want to mention, I know we have our set regular meetings where we'll be talking about budget. If there's any palatability for like a budget-specific workshop, I'll throw that out there just to see what people think about it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kober. Mr. Gauss?
I have actually, through you, Madam Chair, to the superintendent, is it possible, and this is going to sound like a weird thing probably to ask, but is it possible for our student reps, Olivia and Chase, to get a copy of this that they can look at while we're in our meetings? Because poor Chase can't even turn around and look at his monitor.
It looks like our student reps would be interested in getting a budget presentation, so I will ask if we can have some budget books put together for them as well. Thank you, Mr. Gauss.
Yeah, we can put together, we typically haven't, that's how come I didn't, but we're more than happy to put one together. This will everything that I just went through, by the way, will be posted online tomorrow. So it'll all get put onto the website. So if we don't cut down some more trees before tomorrow, it'll be on the website.
Thank you.
And then another quick one is just the excess cost grant. Do we have like a historical chart of our reimbursements? Because it is weird, because sometimes you get one amount, sometimes you get another, and so it's just weird like that. Is there any way that we can kind of get an average together?
Yeah, I can put it together for the next presentation.
Thank you.
Ms. Gerard?
So I just had a few questions. From the, what? Through the chair to superintendent. This is like my first time
I think
doing
you
this.
guys all know
right.
where the questions are going, right?
So as far as removing the Stowe trailer, how is that, do we know how that is affecting the school now with their space? Because I know that their space is extremely, extremely tight and limited.
Yeah, so they did some shifting inside. The trailer was not utilized for a large number of items because of the lack of running water and things of that nature, and just the dilapidated state of it with the leaks and whatnot. So they did shift around a couple of different, whether classrooms or offices inside the building, but they've been able to make it work out.
Okay, perfect. And then how many, for the 5th grade teachers, because I know that we're adding them to, you're looking into Eli Whitney and Prudence Crandall, how many do we currently have in each school for them? Do we know?
You have a full-blown FTE report.
Oh, okay. All right. I wasn't sure if
I
it
can
showed
give it to you. I'm going to look it up for you,
Okay.
but it
No.
is in your FTE report.
Okay, perfect. And I guess my follow-up to that is kind of like, if there's a lot more, it seems that there was, I think, 5 in Prudence Crandall, and we're adding an additional one. Is it because the population is much higher in that area?
Yeah, so when we'd make the decisions based on whether or not we need an additional classroom teacher, we first start with the teachers that they have within the building. So for example, Eli Whitney, there was one classroom teacher who was being moved, or I shouldn't say one. Mrs. Flanagan needs to make a decision about which of her classroom teachers she wants to take from one of her grade levels and put it into 4th grade. She also then needs to make an adjustment, or she also still needs an additional classroom teacher on top of that. Just trying to find my note, and I can give you the exact number because I have it. When you're looking for it. When you're looking for it, you can never find it. Just keep going on, and if I...
You're fine. My only last comment was I truly, as a parent, really wish that we had a library person in a librarian in each school. Every 2 weeks for library for children, for my children that absolutely love to read. One, it's kind of a pain in the butt to remember which actual week are we on, and if the kids have to bring back their books. I know it seems minuscule, but it's making sure that we keep them, but also being able to have them have that access is really, really helpful. So I just wish that was actually put into the budget in some sort of way. Please.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's not my response will be that was, it was discussed for a period of time, and it's on our list of if we could, but it's not just, you have 6 elementary classrooms, or excuse me, 6 elementary schools, and even if you share one between each sister school, and you need 3, I know that you will not find a library media specialist that is low on the certified salary schedule. And then when you factor in the benefits, I mean, you're really talking about ballpark somewhere between $250,000 and $310,000. It's not a small chunk of change. But it's on our target list. But I hear what you're saying.
Thank you.
Chase.
I have a question through the chair to the superintendent. So for the 2026 to 27 sustainability plan, the classroom furniture replacement plan, is that stemming from the $285,000 in extra funds, or is that something different?
It's in addition to. So the $285,000 will assist with the library at the high school. That will be fully changed over. And it will assist with a number of elementary classroom furnitures. We also have some additional classroom sets of furniture for the elementary schools that are within the sustainability plan.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Nice addition.
Janet, go ahead.
I don't really have a question so much as just a comment, and it's just something that I had expressed during leadership. Just a phrase from one of our recent board updates was talking about reinvesting possible reductions. So as there are places where savings are found, to reinvest those savings. And I just wanted to express a caution about that. Is with the current majority on both the board and the town council, there is the potential for a dramatic budget increase for the Board of Education to fulfill every request. But my caution would be in light of the upcoming pre-K through 5 Eagle Academy referendum. Those who have worked on the committee are aware that the current conditions of our school and the space constraints, that it is imperative that this referendum passes. However, with this being a reevaluation year, the town of Enfield may be facing a large tax increase based on the reevaluations alone, without the possible increases in budgets from Enfield's many departments. So the tax increase, voting in favor of the referendum, though unrelated, in reality, in the mind of a voter, they are closely tied. And if taxpayers are faced with too large of a tax increase, they will be less likely to support a referendum that is projected to cost us several millions of dollars. So I just wanted to encourage that when we do find reductions, to let our what we're asking for, let that be reduced rather than reinvesting it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cushman. Ms. McGuire-Bruce.
All right, thank you. There are definitely some things to celebrate in here. I'm thrilled to see the class sizes for those 5th grades go down. I think the addition of the TESOL teacher is essential. I also think that the math teacher to do some of that financial literacy and helping with more social studies blocks are great investments. I'm happy to hear that the Career Center is on the radar, although I may eventually have some questions on how that is being reworked. Tonight, I just wanted to ask that in light of the district's history with the role of instructional coaches, I think it's important to understand how these positions are being structured and supported long-term. I have a few questions that don't necessarily need immediate answers. How will the instructional coach role be clearly defined across the district to ensure consistency while still allowing buildings the flexibility to meet their specific needs? I also worry about taking away the tutors for coaches as a comparison. Adults working with kids should be replaced with adults working with kids. The tutor works with students while the coach will be working with the teachers. So I want to be thoughtful in that correlation because we need both. Given that instructional coach positions have been added and later eliminated more than once in the past, I would like to hear how we're going to maintain how this will be different this time in terms of stability. And then also, is there been consideration to giving professional learning and support structures in place to prepare instructional coaches for the work, not only with the students, but more specifically working to support adult learners since they will be probably used to working with students? So those are just a few questions I had.
I think we're taking note of those.
Thank you.
Perfect. Any other discussion items? Olivia.
Sorry, I just wanted to make one comment to everyone, and I just really wanted to emphasize how important the Career Center is to the students of Enfield High. It's just been so greatly missed since we lost it. They've done so much for us there and really helped every student get to where they need to after high school. I know that's not necessarily, like, the addition, I'm so happy about this, and I know that's not necessarily adding anything. Like, we're not paying for that, right? You said it's...
You have to pay for everything. but we're trying not to use Janet's remarks. We're shifting funding around in order to be able to bring that back. And there's a couple of different positions that would be shifted or not retained, or responsibilities being added on to that coordinator, but in terms of being able to fund it.
But in that same sense, the teen leadership for JFK, that would be additional funding?
Depends on how you look at it. Either it doesn't matter, media specialist or that one.
Yeah, I mean, so the way I had it, I believe, listed on that slide was that it would be, just trying to get to that slide for you. Yeah, I had that as it would be, but I had the library and media specialist as it wouldn't be.
Okay.
So you could choose where I want it, where you put the hash, the no dollar sign. I could drop it down there, or I could leave it up at library and media specialist. It's basically, we're repurposing one of the positions for sure at the middle school to fund another.
All right, but basically the point I'm trying to make here is that I've taken teen leadership class at the high school, and I know the middle school, as you said, the curriculum's going to be a little bit different, but I'm sure it's going to be along the same lines. Really, it's not so much about leadership, but just about acting as a functioning human being, no matter what type of career you're going to go into after high school. In this class, we learned how to properly take an interview, how to have good speaking skills, how just basically the human functions of an adult. And it really prepared the students of the class to get ready for the real world. And I think this is a great addition, and it's definitely needed at the middle school because it's just going to get students started earlier, which is never a bad thing.
Thank you, Olivia. And I'm going to let you know that you don't ever have to apologize for asking a question. So no more apologies. Thank you. Any other initial questions? All right, then I will wrap us up with some, and then Steve is going to share a SharePoint document that we can continue to ask questions and put some comments in. First, I just want to ask for a clarification, Steve. So tonight we made some big adjustments with removing the MOU and the additional allocation. You had referenced in your comments that was not part of this budget presentation. Is that true? Or yes?
The additional appropriation is not. I took a shot in the dark that the MOU was going to go away, so I did pull it out.
Thanks. So I'm just wondering about maybe some of Mr. Ard's comments and the additional funds we got, maybe if there's some ways we can wiggle around. Just putting it out there that there was an additional allocation that was given. Next wonder that I have is the social workers. I will just say, as a social worker, I hate to see the positions being split between our schools. Consistency is critical for student support. This position should also really be available for school-wide support, not just for students in crisis or on a caseload. So I would hope that that is also a place that we are looking for future building and adding in, so we can have consistent mental health, behavioral health supports in our schools that also just support those good Tier 1 portrait of a learner skills that we are embedding in our work. I do have a question about our pre-K change in tuition. Was that included in this budget, the change in tuition rates?
Yes, it's updated from, I think it was $80. Now it would be $100.
Okay. So you had mentioned the half day would go to $100 a month. Do you know what the current, so you just said 80. The current charge is $80 a month. And the full day program, is there a current charge to that?
It'd be double. Same thing, same process.
So doubling for both of them. Perfect. I just wanted to understand the clarity there. And I think those were all of my first initial questions. I will open it up. Mr. Kober?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So one thing is just coming back to memory. So through the chair to the superintendent, again, kind of digging back in the internal controls audit, it talked about the position management structure, referring kind of to how to build a budget by position rather than person. I know we talked about we were looking towards that model. Are we doing that for next year?
Yeah, my budget last year was built that way, and the budget this year is built that way as well. This is built by the position.
Okay, awesome. So just quickly thumbing through the staffing, I noticed it's this current year's FTE. It does have the current employees with the current vacancies. So maybe as one of the first products, could you just clarify next year's what it would look like with maybe a different color for the positions that we're intending to bring in, if that makes sense? So like our current FTE is the 855.75.
Right, so
what
everything
is
that-
this actual
right.
request looking like for next year in terms of FTEs?
Okay, so the proposed additions are not included in that. That's just 25, 26.
Correct. That's what I'm saying. So what would the proposed additions?
So if the proposed positions were included and the other positions that are sometimes the offset would be reduced and whatnot, I can give you an updated FTE.
Okay. Yeah, I think that would just be useful to look at for comparisons. I know you said there were some jobs that might be realigned, and then there would be some that would be truly added. So just to see where the changes would be, I think would be a useful supplemental document. Thank you.
Any others? Or we're going to come back to it a couple more times. So thank you. Thank you for the thoughtful discussion. Thank you, student reps, for your contributions. Thank you again, Steve. All right, 11D, discussion and action regarding the 26-27 school calendar. Pass it to you, Steve, to share kind of maybe how you put that together.
Yep, I'm just trying to reorganize myself over here. Okay, so you have in front of you a proposed 26-27 school calendar. So when we put together the school calendar, well, when I put together the school calendar, I don't know how it happened previous to that, but we bring together all of the different bargaining units and all of the different groups, whether it be certified, non-certified, paraprofessional, nurses, non-union, sort of all the different groups get together in a conference room and we sort of go through the calendar, wishes, desires, and what direction we'd like to look at. I usually give them 2-3 different options so that they have sort of some different thought processes to go through. So this is the result of those different conversations that we've had. So this proposed calendar is very similar to this year's with some small adjustments. So we'll just take you through this. We would start off, as we did this past year, the 24th of August would be convocation, followed by 2 days of professional development, first day of school for kids on the 27th of August. That would give them 2 days in that first week, and then they would come back to school for 5 complete days. The thing that changes this calendar to the previous, Labor Day very late next year. Very late, so September 7th. We looked at whether or not we extend the Labor Day weekend, whether we don't extend the Labor Day weekend, whether, where we start, how we start. The consensus of the room was they liked the way we started it this year. So that's why the beginning sort of stayed the same. You have that 5-day week sitting there in the middle because of the lateness of Labor Day. We continue to go down through. I know there was a request for October 12th, it says Columbus Day, but a Columbus Day / Indigenous Peoples Day was one of the requests for feedback that came out. It wasn't reflected here because this was prior to that. 13th, no school staff professional development. We have an early release day on for grades 6 through 12 only. So we maintain that model of if your students are not related to school conferences, your kids get a full day of school. So there's no reason for everybody to have a half a day of school if you're not related to school conferences. Really what we tried to do big picture in this calendar is we tried to minimize, or I shouldn't say minimize, we tried to reduce the number of half days. And we really we took a hard look at November because it has sort of that no school November feel because of Thanksgiving and things of that nature. So really, that was the overall piece of this. So we did shift where some of the professional developments were offered. For example, taking one out of November and bringing it over into March. You had in the previous year's calendar, I don't know for the number of years you had it, but this is 187 187 contract day for the certified staff, 181 of those was student learning days, so school days. We reduced that down to 180, which is still within the state requirements. That extra half a day provides us with a full day of professional development in conversation with the PDEC committee, Professional Development and Evaluation Committee, as well as the overall effectiveness of the professional development we offer. We feel as though it was a lot better served by having a full day of PD versus the broken up half days. The other offside of that is that it's one less half day for parents to try to figure out sort of what they're doing with kids and what, things of that nature. November 2nd, pre-K to 5 early release, again, conferences. The 3rd is an election day, so that's a full day of staff PD. You have a new key down at the bottom left that sort of tells you whether or not it's a no school and offices, if it's just for staff PD, if it's early release K5, 612. It's just Leslie did a nice job of sort of reformatting this. She took away the Saturdays and the Sundays because no kid wants to come to school on Saturday or Sunday. And honestly, we don't have teachers coming in on those days either, so we took those off to try to give us a little more room. Spring break for April next year. Actually, I skipped over winter break. Winter break next year, we have Christmas Eve falls on the 24th, so historically the day before is an early release day. So you have the 23rd, 24th through the 1st. So they would come back on January 4th. Unlike this past year, it's a little shorter than previous, just the way that the days work out. Continue on with the Washington's birthday on February 15th, followed by a staff PD day on the 16th. Spring break in April next year would fall from the 12th to the 16th, so sort of right in the middle of the month. And last day of, or the 180th day of school, before I start calling snow days, would be on June 9th. And we put anticipated graduation for class of 2027 would be June 11th. Although I did find we have I don't even know if this has been, how much this has been followed in the past, but I did find a policy on graduation. That graduation date for seniors is supposed to be fixed to the 185th day within the adopted calendar and required to take place prior to July 1st. Graduations must occur on weekdays, Monday through Friday. Now, I will tell you that it was last revised in 2024. You also have, why not have two? A second policy, 6,111.1, which basically says the same thing. It does go into a little more detail. For example, you can adjust it after April 1st if you feel as though you need to meet within that. I will tell you the feedback from the high school, as well as many of the members of the committee that I met with regarding the school calendar, was that having graduation while school is still in session is incredibly difficult. Just because while the seniors and the whatnot, they have their exams and all that type stuff. But for families, for staff who have work all day, then they have to try to figure out graduation in the evening because it has to be Monday through Friday. So there was some conversation and articulation about that. But this is our proposed calendar. I believe Andy just provided you with a list because there was a request for religious and cultural holidays and observances. So this would be an additional page that would have to go with the calendar. And did you give them the full packet?
They have those two, but you have the one.
Okay.
Yeah, just some of those.
So you have a list of some, and I think part of the conversation is there's a whole bunch of different ways that you can do this. We did do some research here regarding other districts and what theirs happen to look like. It all depends on the numbers that you wish to put on here, what you do add, what you don't add. It's just one of those, it's almost like calling a snow day. We're not going to make everybody happy with it, but there are special observance days that can be included. There's just different ways that we can go about doing it, but we did put together a short list here of those that were provided to us and others that we thought might be applicable.
Good. Thank you. All right. So, Mr. Kober.
All right, thank you, Madam Chair. So I'll just begin with reminding the board and the public. Obviously, we're talking about the school calendar tonight. We have it on our agenda. It can be passed tonight. For policy, though, we have till the end of February to pass it. So we do have a couple more meetings between now and then if we do want to provide additional feedback and go from there. So just my individual thoughts on the calendar. It is a slightly newer format, so I would prefer like that the months were a little bigger and the column in the middle a little smaller. Moving beyond general aesthetics, I know, again, I've personally in previous years, I'm a fan of having students begin school after Labor Day instead of before. This year, Labor Day actually falls really later, so I would be amicable to the first day of school being September 1st or 2nd. Still, I think August is a little early to get the kids in. I know, and this kind of ties into holidays, I think I like our winter break the way it falls, but I would even throw if we could add into the winter break and include like Three Kings Day. I know there's a few districts that have that off. Looking into February, again, I think when I went to school, we had a full week off in February for that break. I would throw that option out there. Maybe obviously we have President's Day at the beginning of the week, but maybe throw in a couple PD days for staff, but still find a way to give the students off, I think would be great. The superintendent did steal a lot of my thunder because he actually read policy 611 and then 611.1, and then there's another one about school day that talks about it. So one of the things I did notice is this draft says anticipated graduation, but as he read in section 6 of 611, the policy 611, our policy requires a firm graduation on the 185th day. So I know we'd have to potentially look at adjusting that. Obviously, if we have 2/3, we could do something outside of our policy. So potentially we could have a different date and still be okay. But I think the date is a little early. I know normally the 3rd or 4th week of June sometimes might be a little more reasonable for a graduation date. Also, again, the superintendent kind of stole my comments. I think he was looking at my iPad here. So this draft only has 180 days, which is required by state law. However, I do also want to point out that we just redid our collective bargaining agreement with the ETA, for example, and that does say 181 teaching days with 187 days total with 6 days for professional development. So that, even though we just passed that, confines us that we should be scheduling at least 181 days. I know that's been our precedent, too. There's been a couple years where we've canceled days for different reasons, whether it's been an election that we didn't schedule or different things. So I do want to throw that out there, that potentially having a draft with 181 days. I know we've addressed the half days, kind of truncating those down. I think we're getting pretty close to being a little more reasonable and in line with some other districts. And we've talked about parents and childcare and some of the issues that could run into with having several half days. So I touched on that. I know there was conversation about the last couple days of school being half days. I am definitely a fan of that. I think we should stick with that precedent, and I think it's just a reasonable expectation at this point that whenever those last 2 days in June are, they just seem to make more sense to keep them as half days. So those are my 2 cents in the calendar. I know we had some conversation about the holidays and observances. I know obviously I think parents are interested in the calendar itself. So if we were to do that, I think supplemental pages backside or something like that, because you don't want to make a loud document be any louder, especially when people are just trying to figure out, are my kids going to school today and do I have to pick them up early and stuff like that. So I will leave my thoughts there. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kober. Ms. McGuire-Bruce?
So I think Phil kind of echoed. I think we can make a motion to table this. I do think that there's some more feedback for us to give, some more time for us to look at it. I know I have some comments. I can do that after the motion, but I'd like to make a motion to table this.
Just, can I, for a point of order, you don't need to table this. It's under new business. If we don't,
then we just won't pass it.
We just won't take action.
No, exactly. And the reason we wrote this the way we did, so you don't have to go into that, because this was fully planned out to be a multiple board meeting conversation, and why I put discussion and action. So, and maybe for greater clarity, Leslie will write discussion and possible action. So that way, if we're not ready to make a action on it, it goes from new business in this meeting to old business next meeting. And we just keep flowing it in terms of business matters that way. You could table it if you'd like to.
No, that's, thank you for clarification.
Awesome. Then I'm going to ask if there's additional comments on the calendar. I'm going to let Ms. McGuire-Bruce finish, and then I'll go over to you.
Thank you. It was great that our equity statement was in our binder because I'm going to reference it here tonight. Our equity statement is, we believe every child is unique and the diversity of our students is what makes Enfield Public Schools exceptional. To thrive and excel, all our students are welcome, accepted, respected, and supported. This statement is our district's equity statement and states that our commitment to equity, in keeping with that commitment, our caucus and I believe others have voiced our hope to include a list of additional cultural and religious holidays on the back of the school calendar. I agree. We need to know when our kids are in or out of school and not make it busier. These dates would not be days off, but would promote awareness and respect for holidays that may not be widely recognized. Using our district demographic data along with community input, we can help guide which observations are included, ensuring that they reflect our Enfield community. For example, during Ramadan, some students are fasting, and awareness allows teachers, staff, and classmates, and even families to better support students' experiences. Similar awarenesses of other cultural religious observations help create a more inclusive and respectful school environment for all.
Thank you. Mr. Gauss.
I don't have anything prepared, but, you know, it shouldn't surprise anybody. But just a suggestion on the formatting, and I know Mrs. McGuire-Bruce just mentioned putting dates and things on the back. There's too many, and there will be more. So just an idea for the formatting is another QR code where you can link and bring that right up on your phone. And, you know, print new ones or whatever, just see what that day is. Because I think in the future, the very near future, it's not going to fit. And even as the moment you print it, it's out of date. Thank you.
Appreciate that. Any other comments? All right, I will just...
Hold on. I'm sorry. I do have a comment. I'm going to link this to the budget because you said QR code. That'd be a wonderful task for an ed tech communication specialist. Just saying, that's the type of communication transparency that we would be looking for and why that position was brought forward. It's a great job, Mr. Gauss. Appreciate it.
My comments that I'll just add about the calendar, Maureen, you are right. The comment around hoping for some awareness remains a consistent ask from us, and I think we are starting on a path to outline some of those things and ways to include it. Other things that have come up that I just think it's important to note here, one is around Veterans Day. So there has been just some discussion. I know I checked in with our previous chair, Ms. Charlotte Riley, regarding that because I remember her bringing up Veterans Day. That is not a proposed change at this point. I do believe our town workers, it's something in their contract that causes a little bit of a challenge for us, but many districts do amazing programming and have school on Veterans Day, so that just might be something in a long term, another way that we could make No School November less no school. Another idea and discussion that we've had is maybe, is there ways that we could pass multiple year calendars so families could have an idea and staff could have an idea of what like 2 years worth of calendars look like. Been seeing that trend happen in districts more too, aligned with kind of contracts and things like that. Obviously, we are looking at a 1 year calendar here, but just a consideration for down the road. I do think we do need to follow up on the 181 or 180 and the firm date and the graduation. I think those are important. And I will say, I think there's a desire to increase awareness, create a sense of inclusion for all of our students, and support our mission in building global citizens. And that's why we're making some of those adjustments. So we will see this come back as unfinished business in the future. All right, on to committee reports. Ms. Kiner.
Okay, so on January 21st, the curriculum committee meeting was held in Michelle Middleton's office and centered mainly on the presentation by John Day regarding the revision of Enfield High School culinary pathway. 3 new and enhanced courses would replace 3 current courses. They would be added to update and align the curriculum with the ProStart curriculum, which would allow our students to earn recognized industry credentials in the professional food service and catering. Due to the rigor of the coursework involved in preparing students to earn these credentials, the weight of the course will be upgraded to an honors course. The revision in these courses will require curriculum writing, new texts, and exams for the industry-recognized credential. This will be funded through the Perkins Grant, since this is a pathway which contains 2 or more courses. Mr. Degg explained that Connecticut is adopting new federal pathways that will be released in March. The new pathways promote aligning courses to increase the attainment of industry-recognized credentials. The committee members unanimously approved these courses. During items from the table, Ms. Middleton informed the committee that a presentation of the Gifted and Talented program at JFK has been placed on the February agenda. The topic of industry experts being invited as board guests prompted Ms. Middleton to suggest a pathways presentation to be made to the board after the revisions are completed and adopted. The next meeting is scheduled for February 25th at 5 p.m. The March meeting was also scheduled, and it's for March 18th at 5 p.m. And this meeting was adjourned at 5:43 p.m.
Thank you, Ms. Kiner.
You're welcome.
Finance Committee.
So I gave the majority of my finance report earlier, but our next finance meeting is February 2nd at 5 o'clock at Central Office.
Thank you. Policy.
What may end up reading as a few clean lines or pages on paper represents 3.5 hours of sustained discussion, revision, and negotiation with members across the aisle showing up in good faith. And that's not even including all the individual hours, even before the meeting, that were put in from Chairwoman Pickett, board members Cushman and McGuire-Bruce, amongst others. This was a truly bipartisan effort marked by careful listening, willingness to compromise, and a shared commitment to getting it right rather than getting it fast. While the final language for our first read is feeling concise-ish, the process behind it was anything but. So I just wanted to thank everyone who leaned into the work with seriousness, patience, and respect for both the policy and the people it impacts. Obviously, there's more to come as we move forward with the first read, which on a personal note, I will say, given our Herculean effort, I was extremely surprised and disheartened that it did not make it to the agenda for tonight. Though I do recognize that we put Mr. Degg through the ringer making changes and updates. However, I think the lack of communication around the agenda shift is yet another example of just why having streamlined procedures and policies is so vital.
Thank you. Those 9,000s will be coming up.
Madam Chair, just to clarify then, are we expecting that first read at our first February meeting?
Yes.
Outstanding.
Yeah.
Couple different reasons. It's 9:34. It's going to take us a significant amount of time to get through the 9,000s. And this young lady over here's fingers are already flat from all of the budget updates. So I appreciate the understanding with pushing it back to February.
All right, leadership update. We will be meeting on February 4th. We will be reviewing, again, our upcoming agendas. But I also just want to share there is continued joint leadership work around some shared priorities that we will be bringing forward. So thank you, Phil, for your considerations and other leadership members for continued collaborative work there. Liaison report, school updates.
I feel like I always go first, but that's all right. So the first one is Kite. We haven't met yet since the last meeting, so the next meeting is on February 4th at 5:30 p.m. at CT State Asnuntuck. And Parkman News, the special persons dance is on February 6th from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. We also need your help to design the 5th grade graduation shirt. Students, please hand in your designs to your teacher by February 26th. The 100th day, I can't even believe, but the 100th day Roar Assembly is on February 6th. Dress like you are 100 years old or decorate a t-shirt with 100 items. The class with the most spirit wins a special shout out. Please make sure to check out the Parkman newsletter in Parent Square for all of your updates. Thank you.
Thanks. Ms. Berculio?
School nurses at both Crandall and Barnard are asking for some donations if you are able. Barnard is specifically looking for girls and boys pants sizes 6-7, shoes sizes 11 through 3, girls and boys underwear size 6. Also, if you have not filled out your school climate survey, please do so. And this is how you're really going to know. I'm an elementary school teacher, but if you can help sink the ship, the food donation boat is still at Barnard. All the students who bring a canned good or non-perishable item on Friday can bring a stuffy with them to school. You just have to make sure it fits in your book bag. So you can't bring any like Biggie, Whack-A-Mole, larger than your parents' sized stuffies.
Thanks. Ms. Kiner, I'll come to you.
From Andrew Dupere at Prudence Crandall School. This week's fourth grade is finishing up their visit to the Enfield Public Library, where students learn how the library is organized, how to find and check out books, and explore the many resources available to them. Please note that the January Pride Assembly has been rescheduled to February 3rd, as we will be celebrating a recognition as an Apple Distinguished School. If you're attending for a student award or a presentation, please expect the assembly to run a few minutes longer than usual. And finally, our annual Literacy and Numeracy Night will be held on Thursday, February 5th. A purple flyer was sent home from this past week. Please RSVP as soon as possible to reserve your spot. We will have many different math and reading games, read-alouds, hot chocolate for families to enjoy. And that is it.
Thank you. Ms. Cushman.
The Eli Whitney newsletter on Parent Square certainly has a lot of great information, but I just wanted to highlight a couple of things. The first isn't only for Eli Whitney. It's sponsored by the Enfield Social Services. It's the Family Build Night. It says, turn long winter evenings into colorful creations. It's an opportunity for families to build together using Lego bricks. The event is free for youth in grades 3 through 12 and for their family members. They will have Duplo bricks available for younger siblings. You can get in touch with the Enfield Social Services for more information. It's on Tuesday, January 27th from 5:30 to 7. And the Eli Whitney PTO is actually also having a designer purse and power tool bingo. It's on March 6th. At 7 p.m. It's $40 per ticket, and it's being held at the American Legion Post 80. You can contact the Eli Whitney PTO for tickets.
Thanks. I will echo Parent Square and school newsletters are the best way for families to be informed about what's happening in our schools. Hazardville is also having a family engagement night on the night February 19th from 5:30 to 7. So Hazardville families, make sure you're checking out that. Ms. McGuire Bruce, did you have another update?
Just Joint Facilities meeting is on February 12th.
Thanks. You just helped me go to the next one. Perfect.
Sorry.
You're fine. You're good. All right. So we just had Joint Facilities. Joint Insurance Committee, do we have an update if we've gotten membership there? Steve?
I haven't heard from the town manager about the town council side. We provided ours to them.
Perfect. So we will continue to work on scheduling that. Joint Security Committee.
That meeting is going to be February 13th at 9:30 in the morning in the Skidco room at the town hall.
Thank you. And pre-ref.
The next meeting is tomorrow, January 28th at 6 p.m. in the Town Hall Skidco room. The next community conversation, I want to make sure I really highlight it because I want to make sure people are paying attention and going to it. This will be held on February 4th at 6 p.m. in the Enfield High School auditorium. This is, I believe it's going to also be on YouTube as well, on the ETV. But this is really something that people should be going to and paying attention to that. So all the information, I believe, is on the district website as well.
Yep.
Actually, on the district website, there's also links to be able to view the first 2 conversations. That gives a lot of great background information to prepare for this one.
Thank you. All right, we are on to approval of minutes. We have 3 that we need to approve tonight. Do I have a motion to approve the special Board of Ed meeting minutes on the residency hearing on January 6th?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Madam Chair, just quick comments. I know I had emailed the board chair and the superintendent, just for clarity too. So this, even though the agenda on the minutes kind of made it seem like a full board meeting, this was kind of a due process hearing. And per statute, there's a couple of different ways of doing it, whether it's the full board, a subcommittee, or a board member with an outside arbitrator. So the board, we did a ad hoc committee that conducted this hearing. So just for everybody's understanding, if they're flipping through and they see the minutes, this was not like a 9-person meeting here. This was a due process hearing. The majority of it was obviously held in executive session due to confidential student information. However, the final decision that was made is public. So the minutes just reflect whatever the decision that committee had.
Thank you, Mr. Kober. All in favor? That's fine. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in favor, all against? 0 abstentions? Ooh, Bobby, sorry, I missed Bobby's hand on that. She was in, thank you. Can you give me a vote count? Sorry, I was not doing well there.
No.
Nope, we had one over there too. 6. Yep.
6-4.
6-4.
6 is yes.
There was 6 that were for it. Us 5 and Dean.
Right, I'm just trying to figure out how there's more than 3 that are for it when only 3 of you were there.
It's approving the minutes. It's not approving like the,
How do you approve minutes when you weren't there?
it's, you read the judgment of the minutes. So you voted, the motion passes. Next is our special Board of Ed meetings. Do I have a motion to accept those?
So moved.
I'm going to say moved by Mr. Kober, seconded by Ms. Kiner. Any discussion? All right, we will do a hand,
I'd just like to.
that's the next one, Dean. It's okay, we have special meeting. Yep.
Never mind.
No worries. All right, so we will do our vote. All in favor? That looks like a unanimous 9 in favor. All right, and the last one is, do I have a motion to approve our regular Board of Ed meeting minutes from January 13th?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Kober, seconded by Ms. Gerard. Any discussion?
This is the one. Thank you for putting that link in there. I understand not wanting to put the entire text of the policy, but at least if somebody finds it online, it gets them right there without having to go find it on themselves. Thank you.
All right.
I will just add, just because this was a regular meeting too, this is one that's available on YouTube or ETV for the public to review. Unlike some of our special meetings, which are not recorded, the regular meetings are. So just putting that public info out there.
Perfect. All in favor? That looks like 8 in favor. Anybody against? Nope. Abstentions? 1 abstention. No approval of accounts or payroll. Any correspondence or board communications? None.
Madam Chair, I entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second that.
Motion made by Mr. Kober, second by Ms. Gerard. Hand vote. All in favor? That looks like unanimous. Good night, everybody.
Good night.